Hello, and welcome to another exciting episode of the Comic Book Chronicles.
As we check our levels on my sound effects.
Yeah, I had to turn this down here a little bit also, but this is the Comic Book Chronicles. And I know that kind of didn't come out right, but that's fine. I am your host. Good. I am your host, Roddykat, and you can find me. Okay, that's weird. There we go. You can find me on Twitter at Roddykat. You can find me at News Notes Need at Roddykat. Excuse me. You can find me at News Notes Need on Twitter. You can find me at CBCaps on Instagram.
South Carolina with Columbia down the way.
And the sound effects you've heard come from none other than our man in Brooklyn, Agent_70 on Twitter and Instagram.
What's up, everybody? Co-hosting from the BK.
Brooklyn, we go hard. We go hard. Brooklyn, we go hard. We go hard.
There we go. Hey, tweet gone. You can find this here podcast on the Coast of the Podcast Network at cspn.us.
Do it today.
You can also find us on your podcast browser place of choice, whether it be, Google Play, Apple iTunes, aka Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or the Coastal Lizard Podcast Network's SoundCloud page.
Make sure to hit like and subscribe and leave us all the good 5-star reviews.
Yeah. You can also find us recording every Thursday night, 9:30-ish p.m. Eastern Standard Time on the Kliq Nation's YouTube channel. That's youtube.com/thekliqnation and twitch.tv/Comic Book Chronicles.
Again, please like and subscribe and make sure to click the notification button so you know when we are on. And also leave us all the good reviews.
Folks, we got a packed show tonight, so we're going to go briskly into the spoiler-free/light recap of this week's She-Hulk episode, which is called Just Jen.
Yes. So guess what, folks? It is a self-contained wedding episode. That's probably the biggest spoiler I'm going to drop. So I will let Roddykat continue here because I know he has a particular point he wants to make. But if you need me to, I will continue.
Yeah, so I won't, like I said, there's not too much I will go into because of the fact that it comes out on Thursdays, so we don't want to spoil it for folks. And the fact that it's a wedding episode doesn't really necessarily give away anything particular.
Right.
So and the wedding is the A plot. Although, slightly relatedly, the B plot has to do with some shenanigans back at the office with and not really shenanigans, but basically a divorce case that Mallory Book and Nikki are dealing with one.
It's a divorce. I was going to say it's a hold that thought.
Sure,
it's a divorce case that is way more complicated than meets the eye.
Yes.
I think that's the best way we can put it.
You know what?
And it involves a character that Roddykat is about to talk about.
Yes, and the character that the divorce is surrounding is a person of, let's say, less not necessarily obscure notes, but let's face it, he's not one that kind of comes to mind when you think of Marvel characters. In fact, I know probably at least one or two people who will probably be up over the moon over seeing this character if once they figure out who that is, because even though they say it right now, because there are some people who are fans of this stupid Great Lakes Adventures.
Listen, they're out there.
Yes,
there are fans of the Great Lakes Avengers out there.
There are. In fact, so the only thing that so I mentioned that because I don't even going to say the character's name, and it's not probably the one that most people may possibly think about when.
Yeah, it's not the stretchy guy.
No, no, I wasn't even thinking about that. I was thinking about Squirrel Girl. But although I kind of wonder, I kind of wonder if we do get to see. I would like to see you. Hey, Marvel. I know you got the stuff already set in already, but if you have a Melania Van Traub, Squirrel Girl thing coming up in She-Hulk, I would appreciate it. Thank you very much, because I know they're not doing anything with that Squirrel Girl show.
That would be great. I'd be happy to see Milana Weintraub on the show. That would be awesome.
Again, because when I saw this other character, I was like, okay. At first, I was upset about it because basically it means that the GLA is in the MCU over the Wackos, which I discussed with Agent 70 before the show. So that kind of had me slightly upset. You know, not like big time, but it was like, really, that's some bullshit. Like, these has been, whatnots, never was beens are potentially in the MCU, and the Wackos aren't even in there. But that's you know, neither here nor there. So, but yeah, if we get a Squirrel Girl sighting in the midst of this She-Hulk thing, that'll be pretty good. So I don't know if they thought that far ahead, because we know they said there was supposed to be a few more people popping in.
Right. So wait, are we? I forget the episode count now, because we are in episode 6. So there's only what, 2 or 3 more? There's 9 total, right?
I'm not sure. I think that's the case. I'm not sure actually.
So we're really in the home stretch. Right, so we are in the home stretch of She-Hulk, so we will see where this goes over the next 3 weeks.
And I guess that makes sense given what happens at the end, which there was no after mid-credits scene again. So I'm kind of wondering if what we thought about last week was going to be the case, or they're just leaving it to the last minute or so of the show to kind of take care of that.
Right, I started to see, without spoiling, right, without spoiling, I had a feeling they might tease a character's involvement who we were all surprised to hear about during D23. I'll leave it at that. Because
there is a group that it gets mentioned in the course of this show that they have had some dealings with. Yes.
Right. And I feel like that's where, you know, and it makes perfect sense for that character to first appear here as a teaser. Going into that announcement at D23, and I will leave. This is us not spoiling this because this literally dropped today.
Right.
So, you know, the day of our recording, so we're not going to spoil it. But, you know, I think both myself, Roddykat, and most of the MCU fandom that is familiar with the comic books had, you know, we're slightly surprised at the idea that this character would actually be, quote, introduced. Right. The way they were supposedly going to be, but I have a feeling we're going to get a cameo introduction,
right,
or more. You know, maybe it'll be a lot like Kang in Loki.
Possibly.
You know, where we get like a full episode with the character before they appear in a movie proper.
Or given that we're probably coming up to the end of the series, probably maybe 2. Like, we'll get introduced to them at the end of the 8th, and then the 9th ones will be like, all right, here's what we got, and then, you know.
Yeah, we'll see. We'll see, because at the end of the day, there's a couple of storylines that could be in play. You know, and they might all intertwine because, believe it or not, there is an inquiry made about what is going on with Bruce Banner in this episode.
Yes, there is.
So, you know, like I said, you know, these are minor spoilers. We're not really spoiling any plot stuff, but we're just keeping everyone apprised of, you know, where certain things stand going through the 6th episode.
Yep. And that's pretty much how we'll keep that right there. So, like I said, the show just came out, so we'll just kind of push on from there. But like I said, it was for the episode what it was all right. But I guess the big thing for me personally was that one character that the B plot was surrounding around.
Right.
So, all right. We also get, well, not necessarily character development, but we get a couple of little tidbits about one of the side characters. Well, yeah, 2 I would say, but 1 specifically, we get a little bit more background as to what that entails, and I don't think that kind of follows their comic book part. I'm fairly certain it doesn't, but nevertheless,
Right.
a little bit
Right.
something.
I was about to say, without spoiling. Well, actually, no. Like it would spoil a little bit.
Right.
Like one of the surprises in the episode is one of it was one of the main antagonists in the episode. So I don't want to talk about that. That was an interesting surprise.
Yeah. So we'll leave it at that. Now then, we are going to kind of briskly talk about the first 3 episodes of Star Wars Andor.
Right. So I think just general impressions. This is something that, I thought of immediately myself, but I heard other podcasts mention this story. The Andor story owes a debt of gratitude to screenwriter Tony Gilroy, who is behind the screenplay of the first 3 Bourne movies, Michael Clayton, Rogue One. Obviously, Rogue One is instrumental in the production, the whole reason of for being of this series. So ultimately, I think that the origin of this story, right, which is in and of itself an origin story. It really is.
Pretty much,
but, like that particular double entendre there really means a lot because, like there's a lot of meaning behind that because Tony Gilroy really gives the story heft and really imbues a lot of depth in the characters, without us even having to like get any sort of exposition. We just know, we can just sense how these characters, the history that some of these characters have with each other just based on their interactions and based on some of the things that happen in the story, in the flow of the story.
Mm-hmm,
and I think that really reflects a strong writer and a writer that has a very deep well of understanding and knowledge of writing a good espionage thriller. And that's what we're getting here. We're getting a lot of great espionage work in Andor. Take it away.
Yep. Indeed. And it makes sense. So we got the first 3 episodes all out, and it kind of plays out like that's how they need it to be. Because from the start of the first episode to the end of the last one, you get a better sense of partially where this is going, but how the character is being built. Like we seen in Rogue One, we already got that part. But as people have been saying, it's a journey from here to there, and the way they have the first 3 episodes already out there kind of starts that journey. And like he just 70 says, like the way that the scenes were kind of cut together and put into each other. Excuse me, kind of builds that properly in a way that, as much as I hate to say it, they definitely did better with flashbacks than Book of Boba Fett.
Yeah.
I didn't mind Book of Boba Fett, the way the Book of Boba Fett handled flashbacks that much, but it got to be a bit much, I will say.
Right.
The way they do it here, it makes total sense.
Right. I mean, in Boba Fett, they tried to construct a reason to have the flashbacks.
Right.
And I think that's where a lot of the awkward storytelling choices were made.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Whereas here, it's literally just part of the storytelling.
Mm-hmm.
But we're meant to see, like, literally the origin of this character.
Right.
The title character. And, and it's interwoven. And that's what's appreciated, I think.
Mm-hmm.
Those are storytelling choices. That's the writer and the director, coordinating, how to tell the story. So, I give Tony Gilroy a lot of credit. I know that he was actually set to direct a bunch of these episodes, but he stepped aside, and in favor of another director.
Right.
But he's obviously the writer for, if not the bulk of these episodes, at least the pilot and the first 2 or 3.
Mm-hmm.
So,
do we know how many? Because I can't remember. Do we know how many episodes we're getting in total?
I have.
Looking at IMDb.
The IMDb. I'm looking at the IMDb, but this is just for Tony Gilroy, so I think it's 12 episodes.
That sounds about right.
But it looks like he wrote Right. So episodes 1 through 3 were written by Tony Gilroy, but we won't get Tony Gilroy back until 11 and 12, which is the ending. So I guess he knows where the story goes, and the middle is where other writers stepped in and filled in some of the gaps.
Right, and I guess that's the other part of this is like we know where the story ends, which is Rogue One. So I will be very curious once we get to the end of this to see where that ends up, in relation to it. So, and unlike other Star Wars projects, we have a definite timeline. We have a definite time frame of when this is set. Put it that way. Like others, you can kind of infer where they come through at based on what happening. This one we have a definite date.
Right. Yeah. So it's supposed to be 12 episodes.
Okay. So yeah, we already got 3 out of the way. So, and they're coming out every Wednesday night as opposed to which is the normal Disney Plus thing. But of course, like we said last week, She-Hulk kind of got out of the way of that for whatever odd reason, which still doesn't make any sense. But we're not going to beat that horse too many more times.
Right.
So, but otherwise, that I will definitely say, impression-wise, it's a good, strong start. And I'm hoping that it kind of keeps that, which I don't see any reason why it won't. But it's still kind of early to tell why it won't keep that same momentum. If the writing and the directing keeps as strong as it has so far, it is definitely it is not your Star Wars as Star Wars. You will not find the regular trappings that you would find in other Star Wars projects.
Yeah, I mean, at this point, if you don't realize that this is a prequel series to Rogue One, and there's going to be very little Jediing,
right?
Some
people are going to probably expect it because of
because of the overall overarching story. I get it.
So
all right,
but yeah, make sure check it out at your leisure.
Please do. We definitely. I enjoyed it.
Totally.
Like I said, I really enjoyed the storytelling. I thought it was so solid, and I guess it's just a sign of getting a little older, and just wiser, and just being more attuned to the needs, the storytelling needs.
Right.
Because, ladies and gentlemen, and folks in the audience, we grew up on like a lot of single episode, like episode of the week type shows, and prestige TV came a little bit later in life, and I didn't jump on it right away because I didn't subscribe to HBO. Right. So this is much more in line with prestige style television.
Yeah.
Where there is a long story being told over the course of 10 to 12 episodes. And the writing is what carries. The writing and the acting are what carry those types of series. And I think so far, and shout out to, her name is Bix, right?
Yes, the friend. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh man, we should talk after the show because there's a couple of things I do want to mention.
Wait, I was about to say I'm looking for the right sound effect. Like without being too misogynistic.
Did you get the popcorn?
Yeah, when I saw her, I was like,
Did you get the popcorn?
I was like, all right, Bix, I see you.
Yes.
I'm like, thank you, Toby from the West Wing for that one. Like I said, trying not to be too much of a misogynist here. I was like, all right.
Did you get the popcorn?
That might be our code word, our code sound effect from now on.
You are so silly. But
like,
yes.
Okay, Bix.
You know what? I'm not even gonna lie. I know where you're going with that, and yeah, I was kind of like, oh, okay. But also, actually, I assume we're still going to see more of that character. But
you know what? We could also use this.
Hello there.
There we go.
Yes,
that
might be even better, actually. Yes.
Right. I think that one works. I think this is what we're going to use as a code for that.
Hello there.
There we go.
So silly. But yeah, that being said, like I said, Star Wars Andor is out there in 3 episodes. Catch it. Tell us what you think in the comments or whatever the case may be. How you feel about it. Like I said, there's a couple of things I'm gonna bring up too. In fact, I know for a fact that if you are listening to this show after the fact, say after Saturday or so, you might, and you follow me, you might see a couple of other impressions that I kind of scheduled to not to spoil things about a couple of things that happen in the episodes. So there you go.
Sounds good. That's
All
what
right.
scheduling tweets is for.
Exactly. That's right. You can schedule from the past to the future, or from the future to the past, whatever the case may be. Either way, all right, Agent 70 is going to flip a coin and talk about either Rings of Power and or House of the Dragons first.
No need
House
to,
of the
no
Dragon
need
first.
to, yeah, I was about to say no need to flip a coin. I'm just going to go in release order. So I'm always going to start with Rings of Power. So last week's Rings of Power episode is episode 4, and it was titled The Great Wave. And I have to remind everyone that I am not familiar with the Silmarillion or any of the other, outside of, any of the other Tolkien books that are outside of The Hobbit and the Ring trilogy, right? So a lot of this stuff is old hat to the people that read like the indices or the indexes. Indices is the plural of index, right? But ultimately, I like the way they are developing the story. We do not necessarily touch base with every group of characters that we've been introduced to thus far in this episode, and I like that. I like that we're not having to spend a few minutes on every group. There's actually a group here in that we've been following that's completely ignored in this episode, and I like that for the betterment of the other stories, right? So I like that they are making conscious decisions to let one story lay, I don't want to say fallow, but just let it lay quiet, or let it lay quietly until the next week, to let some of these other stories breathe. And the other stories that are breathing right now are literally the whole concept behind this show. Remember, this show is titled The Lord of the Rings, The Rings of Power. And we're meant to understand that this is all about everything that leads up to the forging of the Rings of Power, right? And as I've said it before, if you're not familiar with that story, you may want to go to Fellowship of the Ring and listen to Kate Blanchett tell you that story at the beginning of the movie. So that's all I'll say. There's plenty of, I've said this before, there are plenty of names that get dropped. There are plenty of places that you heard of during the Fellowship trilogy, the Rings trilogy, and certain fates befell these places in this history that we are now exploring. So ultimately, we're going to see how all of that stuff happened. I am really enjoying this. It's really a wonder to behold some of the shots that are in Rings of Power. I actually enjoy just kind of watching it, just to look at the vistas and the camera work. Even though the vast majority of it is CGI, we know that there are some scenes that are not, much like they were in the Rings trilogy under Peter Jackson. Some of that stuff is very real. So I recommend this. I don't think Roddykat has touched this yet, but I would hope that he does at some point.
Actually, that's what I was going to say in closing, is that one, I had actually intended to this week, but with, like Andor and She-Hulk and some of the other stuff going about this week, I was like, I didn't get a chance to do it before the show, but I absolutely plan to hit up the shows to check them out.
Listen, Andor killed my evening yesterday.
Mm-hmm. Oh, I watched Andor and She-Hulk back to back.
Andor killed my evening yesterday. Like yesterday, the Mets lost in the afternoon, so I did not have any baseball to watch at night. Mm-hmm. So it was literally 3 straight episodes of Andor before going to bed. And not that it killed, I don't mean that in a bad way. It's just that just
took out your night.
My evening, exactly.
Right.
That's what took up my evening.
Right.
And She-Hulk was a lunchtime and and early evening finish up for me today.
Gotcha. And I'm going to say, before we go on, that so the storytelling thing that you were talking about is kind of not new because, as you know, prestige television kind of does that, especially if it's an ensemble cast, kind of does that kind of stuff where it just kind of goes from group to group to group to group. And South Parkers kind of did it like from way back in the day, so it's not a new thing, but a well executed use of it is pretty good. Like you said, skipping a certain group of people from now to come back to them later to give them a little bit more thing. It's kind of a soap opera thing in itself, anyway. So
right. But it's always appreciated because, at least from my perspective, to give some stories more room to breathe.
Exactly.
So that's a directorial choice sometimes, and sometimes it's a writing choice. So I just appreciate the fact that we didn't have to touch on all of the groups that we've been following thus far in the fourth episode.
Right. Cool.
So now we move on to House of the Dragon in an episode titled "Light the Way," or "We Light the Way." And if you have been keeping up with House of the Dragon, this is the 5th episode. So yeah, this is the 5th episode. Guess what, folks? It's a wedding. And if you have been following Game of Thrones at all, weddings do not end well in the world of Game of Thrones. And that is essentially what happens here.
Oof.
Like, characters are literally falling apart in front of us, like literally falling apart. We have characters who literally get their face punched off because the puncher is punching with an armored gauntlet fist to an exposed face.
Is it just me? It's kind of early for that. Oh, it feels kind of early for that, but maybe I'm wrong.
I mean, it's the 5th episode. I think there's only 8 total. I want to say there's only 8 total.
Okay.
Of this first season.
Right.
But I'll have to look that up. But ultimately,
But I was thinking, it didn't the original version of what you're describing happen like probably a season or 2 in, or at least near the end of. But again, I guess.
Oh, the wedding thing. Yeah. Well, I think ultimately it ties into the story a little bit better.
Okay.
Because the wedding here is all like because remember, this story is about palace intrigue, and the opening storylines really center on the line of succession, and so there are machinations put into play that affect the lines of succession, and part of the schemes to affect the lines of succession involve setting up marriages of like power players, powerful families, very much in that Game of Thrones type vein.
Gotcha.
So I apologize. House of the Dragon apparently consists of 10 episodes. So we are halfway through now.
Okay. Solid.
So, and that's it for House of the Dragon. There's going to be a time jump. That's the last thing I will say. There's going to be a time jump. We're actually going to we bid goodbye to 2 actresses in this episode because they played the younger version of characters, and after the time jump that's going to occur between episodes 5 and 6, we're going to encounter them as older characters. So they're going to be portrayed by older actresses. Okay,
gotcha. Well, stay tuned for that, folks, unless you're already watching it, in which you will have seen it.
Exactly. So then that's it for our TV recap.
Cool. So we're going to push over into the books of the week.
We're going to transition over.
And we're going to start with A.X.E. Judgment Day as I walk through the Valley of Death, number 5.
Yeah, definitely. So A.X.E. Judgment Day number 5 is written by Kieron Gillen with art by Valerio Schiti. Colors are by Marte Gracia, and letters are by VC's Clayton Cowles. So let me pull this up, unless you're ready to jump right in.
So I will say that going into this issue, knowing Agent 70 enough the way I do, I was, as I told him before the show started, like, I don't think he was gonna like the one thing that happens at the beginning of this, but then the issue and the writer apparently redeemed themselves in in Agent 70's eyes with what happens at the end. Not giving it away.
You know, it's seen as blasphemy by one of the Krakoans, but I really enjoyed the arc that the character takes. You know, and if you've been keeping up with our reviews of A.X.E. Judgment Day, I'm specifically referring to one Steve Rogers, and you know, there's, you know, kind of a classic bit of rallying that needs to be done at the beginning of the issue.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't come from the characters you expect, though. You know, one is a random bystander, which is nice, and the other is a character who doesn't have the most history with Cap, but he's got some.
Yes.
You know, enough familiarity, and so that rallying was crucial, and there are a couple of really nice splash pages here. I
was going to mention one. Yeah.
Did see Roddykat's a note on this. I'll let you talk about that now.
Mm-hmm. So yeah, there's a page 12 has a nice splash page of a gang of characters going into action, including some, well, at least one particular person on the Krakoan side that I feel like they just threw in as a I mean, I know that character's around, but it was like you don't really see him unless there's something comedic happening. So the
it's
fact
more of an Easter egg than anything, right?
Basically. So when you see this character shows up in a splash page like that, whatever. Although the splash page was kind of weird in itself because where it had some of the characters and some other vehicles that were around, it was like, well, wait a minute, it didn't look right in that particular case, but it was kind of a catch-all. Hey, they're kind of going into action type situation, you know. But nevertheless, it was a pretty good page. So even you know, not looking too deep into everything you see on the page. So, and I don't know the other page that you were referring to. Oh, unless you're talking about the last page.
Oh no, yeah. I mean, I was talking about the last splash page, right?
Right.
But what I'll say is, things are even bleaker in this issue than they ever have been before that last splash page.
Oh yeah.
You know, we see characters get literally like nuked, basically.
Yeah. Oh yeah. The folks getting taken out left and right, basically. In as that says creative ways. We'll leave it that way.
Yeah, like literally getting nuked. You know, like if we were talking about, you know, some of these characters being able to survive, like a ground zero detonation, right? Some of these characters would not survive, and obviously we're dealing with something even more devastating, like a rogue, not even a rogue, but just a celestial,
right?
And some of these characters just eating it, just taking it, getting incinerated.
Yep.
So.
Yep. And going back to what Agent 70 said about a certain character kind of stepping up into in a role we're not used to seeing them in, I was kind of happy to see that, you know, because we know the character. In fact, I forgot there's a book this week that I forgot that he's kind of starring in that I forgot to check out. But nevertheless, kind of has a place in the world of Marvel, specifically with the Krakoan / mutants, I will say.
Right, and I thought it was appropriate, obviously, you know, that this character would be the
voice of reason, or the voice
the voice of hope.
Right. Yes, agreed.
To re-engage Captain America.
Yep, I agree with you there. So, but yeah, it was a good issue. But possibly potential click of the week, I guess.
Oh, it's a potential click of the week for me, definitely.
Yeah, I didn't actually put that on my sheet, but it's definitely it was definitely a highlight of the week for certain. So
I mean, I was fist pumping at the end of the issue.
I know you were. Like I said, when I saw that last page, I was like, huh, all right. No, so wow, that was the other thing I was going to bring to question without giving anything away. I have questions about that, and I know there are some people that probably would also, because
about how things that are
how that happened,
not biological, get reconstituted.
Well, no, I mean we know about the protocols that were involved in that. However, there was certain part of the protocol that was like, well, how did they get that? Because normally there's
because certain things have to be backed up.
Exactly.
Right.
So
and certain
like,
types of characters get backed up, right?
Exactly. So I was kind of curious. It's like, well, wait a minute, what are they pulling from? Because this character is not a part of that. So what?
I wonder if they didn't prepare going into it.
That is also possible.
I wonder if they didn't prepare that plan, that for that possibly, for that eventual, for that particular outcome. Planning for an intended outcome. Like they probably anticipated that.
That's possible, yeah. Because during the course of the issue, you still see various members kind of there's plans being plans upon plans kind of being thought about and enacted, during the course of the issue. So
there's multiple contingencies that are being played out over the course of this, much to Exodus's chagrin.
Yes. So yeah, one of those which wasn't really said could have possibly happened, and that involving that particular thing. Although the one other thing about that kind of stuck with me was that, well, wait, how did that get? Well, actually, that would probably be the easy part because they've done it with they've inserted certain materials into certain characters upon re-entry. So I guess, or resurrection. So I guess that's not hard to do. So anyway, regardless, great issue. We'll leave it at that. If you're keeping up with the Judgment Day stuff, this is definitely one to check out. And I think this is actually, wait, what is this? 5 of
6.
6. Okay, so yeah.
All right, so we only have one more A.X.E. Judgment Day issue to go, but I think in the reading order there is like a finale, like an Omega issue.
And there's still a bunch of tie-ins. Yeah.
Yeah, there definitely is an Omega issue in November, right? So the 6th issue comes out in October, and obviously we have the last 2 tie-ins apparently this week, and we're actually no, the A.X.E. Avengers I think comes out next week,
right?
And Fantastic Four 47 comes out this week,
right?
I'm just looking at the checklist, and then in October there are several one-shot tie-ins and a couple of regular comic tie-ins. And we get A.X.E. Judgment Day number 6, and then there is an Omega issue in November.
Right. So, realistic landing. Stick with us, folks. We'll find out.
I mean, it's an event. There's going to be, a finale in 6, and we'll see how the Omega carries things forward.
Right,
and what they decide to do with the Eternals, because the Eternals stand to be the most affected, and maybe the Krakoans as well, because we've always joked about how the Avengers are just kind of stuck in the middle. They're like the UN. They were like the UN peacekeepers. Between 2 warring factions, and so we'll see how the mutants and the Krakoans, and like we've seen Arakko get wasted. Basically, we've seen many Krakoan mutants get destroyed. So we'll see how the mutants come out of this, because this is probably the biggest blow to the existence of Krakoa since its inception, no matter what Moira McTaggart tries to do.
Right. You're right about that. So, but yeah, we'll see how that happens. It's probably not going to be a 198 situation. At least not for long. So, or at least
I hope that was a pretty bleak time in mutant storytelling.
Well, that plus the fact that because there was no way to have any more mutants, so it's slightly different because as far as we know, they're going to continue to still have that way. coming out of this.
That was just a tough storytelling. That was a tough time to be reading X-Men during the 198. So.
Yeah. So, all right, we push on to the next book that we have in common, which is, and I say this slightly as a surprise, Duo number 5 of 6.
Right. Yes, it is Duo number 5 of 6. This is a DC book. This is set in the Milestone universe. What is it? Planet M?
Yes.
Or Universe M?
Earth
like
M. Earth M.
Earth M. That's right. Earth M. Yeah. M is for Milestone. It's written by Greg Pak with pencils by Koi Pham, inks by Scott Hanna, colors are by Chris Sotomayor, and letters are by Janice Chiang. So I caught up on this what's now a limited series over the weekend in anticipation of the 5th issue, the penultimate issue coming out this week. So I was able to get up to speed on the nature of the duality of this main character. So exactly. There is a drum roll. There's a drum shot here that goes with that, and I felt like the core of this story is done really well, because it really does center upon the two protagonists, as much as we can call them. Protagonists really duking it out with each other. That's essentially what they end up doing over the course of like the second half of the story, trying to figure out how best to coexist. And I'm not spoiling everything. I know Roddykat has talked about this book, but I think it's worth reading. I'm not sure if these characters are going to have any sort of longevity beyond maybe appearing in other Milestone related books. So, but obviously with the nature of DC's numerous crises, you never know when some of these characters might find their way into the mainstream DC universe. Who knows what the mainstream DC universe is at this point, or what it will be.
Especially after what we found out last week.
Right. So I'll hand it off to Roddykat. He'll probably have a few more things to say about the story, but I have to say that I enjoyed thus far the interplay between the two protagonists and how they are dealing with their shared lives now.
Right. So, and I have been wanting Agent 70 to check this book out, not just because of the creative team is all Asian and the protagonists are Asian, but also it is a fairly strong story with that even being the case. And I was kind of curious because I'm going to ask this question. I think I was going to ask.
Well, at least the writer and the penciler are Asian.
Well, yeah, and the letterer, but.
Yes, and the letter. I was about to say I was going in order from the first credit, so I did miss Janice. Sorry, Janice. Right. I know you've been lettering for a long time.
It's okay.
Yeah, she's been around comics for ages.
Right. She's
been around since the 70s, I think. So good for her for still getting that lettering done.
So the question I have to ask you, but before I say anything else, was because I don't have much else to say about this because I've been enjoying it a bit. One, you've had a chance to read this. Just all in one fell swoop, which I think it probably reads well that way. Like I've been doing it from in real time from
month to month,
right, and it's been pretty good. But I think this probably will lend itself a better reading trade. I would think, yeah. And also, the question I was going to ask though, outside of that, is: do you see this? Did you see one of the characters as how I don't know if you remember how I described him, but did you see this as a movie with a certain movie star attached to it that the male character kind of favors, or seeming to me kind of favors?
Kinda with the hair and the beard,
which also has to do with another one of your books that you read.
yes. I did notice that.
So
a little bit of a passing resemblance there.
Mm-hmm. Which actually we will have more news about this person in the news section, but not having to do with this.
Right, and we do have. I think we have a sound effect. I thought I did. Let me just double check. Let's see. Oh, you know what? I don't think I ever converted it into an actual sound effect. I might have taken it off my board, but I could have sworn I had. You know what? I don't think I do anymore. Look at that. I took it off. I must have not used it for a long time. But yeah,
Gotcha.
I thought I had one, but yeah, folks, you know, this is this is an actor and creator that we are all very familiar with. He portrays a character who killed a bunch of people with a pencil.
Yes, as one of his roles, as opposed to playing another similar Messiah type character in one of his previous roles.
Exactly, the one.
Yes. So, but yeah, the only thing I have to add just briefly to this, like I've been enjoying it. This one, like I did, I think we're just finding out confirmation that this was a miniseries in it, because I don't think it was initially put out as that, or if it was, and we took, because when we originally talked about it, you know, it might have been, because I know when we first talked about it, it might have mentioned whether it was or not.
Right. I mean, we could always just go backwards and check the solicitations.
Right.
You know, just to be certain. But yeah, you know, like we're not casting any judgments.
Right.
On this, because so many of these things end up being miniseries. You know, even the Black Cat stuff, the Jane Foster stuff.
Mm-hmm.
You know, at least we're still getting good content. You know,
Right.
It's just a shame that they just can't support. But to a certain degree, they're correct. They really can't support an ongoing. But as long as we're getting good stories with these characters, you know, we're gonna have to just be content with getting miniseries.
Right, and who knows? Like you said earlier, they could pop back up in other Milestone media and or maybe possibly the DC universe at large. But we will see. That being said, if you are familiar with the Milestone universe, like there haven't been any characters from that universe to really show up in this, so if you're looking for that out of this, but it is in the same universe, and these are newer characters to that universe. That being said, I still would say that it is worth a check to check this out. This might be something up some folks' alley, I think. That being said, yeah, I think that's it. So we got what other book you want to do before we go into Rabbit?
Let's do FF.
Sure. All right.
All right, so Fantastic Four number 47 is written by David Pepose with art by Juan Cabal, colors by Jesus Aburtov, and letters by our favorite lettering paisan, VC's Joe Caramagna. So I'm going to let Roddykat talk about the bulk of this, but I will say that this is kind of a filler arc that's meant to tie into the Judgment Day event, because we know that a new creative team has been appointed to take over the Fantastic Four in the wake of Dan Slott stepping off the book. So I believe 47, 48, and 49 are going to be the issues that tie in. Well, maybe they won't all tie into Judgment Day, but at least those will be that'll be the fill-in parts of the story.
Right. We know 47 and 48 for certain are definitely Judgment Day tie-ins. 49,
Right.
yeah, we don't know.
Right. We have no idea about 49 at this point, but we know that a new creative team is incoming, and so we as longtime comic book readers are kind of prone to seeing these fill-in arcs between like long-term creative teams. I don't want to say permanent because there's no such thing in comics or in life, right? But long-term creative teams, you know, these fill-in arcs that come in between these fill-in stories are often seen as throwaway stories. But I like that this is, one, a tie-in to the major event, and two, there are some really cool pop culture references and tie-ins in this, and I think that's where I'm going to hand it off to Roddykat.
Yes. Some of you may remember the siege of Avengers Mansion. This is not quite that. However, it is kind of similar because it does have to do with the siege of the Baxter Building. And if you know of another popular siege in cinematic history, that was centered around Christmas that one might evoke for.
Right, it's centered around a building. Folks.
Yes, exactly. You would read this and think, yes, that's the case, and you would be right down to certain references in the book that show up.
I'm like, is there an Al Powell, Sergeant Al Powell somewhere? I'm looking for Reginald Vell Johnson. I can't wait to see if there's a Reginald Vell Johnson reference in the next issue.
I mean,
that is a big hint, folks. That is a big, big hint.
As much as I hate to say it, it could be the closest would be that one custodian that helped Sue out.
Maybe.
But we can't really say that for certain. But that's probably the closest we're gonna get at this point. But yeah, so the Basque Divisions has been sieged, all due to a character.
Besieged.
Yes, exactly. Based because of a character that I know has shown up a couple of times since what I'm about to mention, but I vaguely remember where that was. But I had to groan because I remember this character from Original Sin.
Is that where the character comes from?
I think this character was before that, but they played a part of Original Sin, definitely.
God, man, folks, we read so many comics. I can't remember some. When I saw this character, I was like, am I supposed to recognize this character?
Right.
I think I do, but I'm not sure.
So at first, when I first saw him, because you see him from the back first, I was like, wait, is this a new version of Malice? Which if I know there are people who know of the Fantastic Four, but don't know that Sue Storm Richards was the embodiment of Malice at one point in time, but that's neither here nor there. But it turns out not to be the case. And yeah, like I said, I was like, oh wow, I knew the character's name, and I felt like this character is basically more associated with a version of Captain Marvel, let's say, not Carol Danvers version.
I mean, this character is a legacy character.
Basically.
Like, this character has a father who has the same surname and had a history with, I guess multiple heroes.
Right.
So, I'm unfamiliar with the character.
But I mean, this particular version, I remember being from a story that involved Novar. And that may or may not, I can't remember if that was before or after Original Sin, but nevertheless, they also played a small part of Original Sin also, which I try not to think of Original Sin, that event, that much, but there are certain things you just can't help because certain things still come up from that event, unfortunately, or certain people. But nevertheless, this is part one of two in the, I think we've said a lot, as a tie-in to Judgment Day is not so much that, even though they do kind of sprinkle in, it's told from a certain character's reference, and that's kind of how it starts off. But there's no
and ultimately, it's the events of Judgment Day are used as a cover, for what's actually happening with what the villain, the antagonist, is trying to pull off.
Right. But outside of that, nothing that's that close tie to the event itself. So
right. I'd also add that the tease for the next issue really ties into the reference here, into the pop culture, the particular pop culture reference, folks.
Some would argue the cover in certain respects, but not really, because it's so.
Well, I think that tease, that one-page tease, is the cover for the next issue. It more than likely is the cover for the next issue.
Well, no, I meant the cover for
the cover of this issue. Right. Now you got me flipping backwards to see.
It's not really so much though. Outside of where
the cover for the next issue definitely is.
Yeah, definitely. Like outside of where this cover kind of takes place, that's about where the reference could start and end. But yeah, the next cover for the next issue. Absolutely, positively.
Yeah. I was about to say the cover for this issue kind of does also.
Right, you see what I'm talking about. Yeah,
definitely. I couldn't remember I remember seeing Mindless Ones. Right. So that's why I didn't put two and two together until you made me go back and look at it, and now it absolutely makes sense.
So like that, fun issue. kind of a potential click of the week for that. I mean, it's not, it has acts to kind of stand up to, and then that, kind of takes them out of it. But it was a fun issue for what it was so far, I would say.
Mm-hmm.
That being said, unless you got another book that you really, really want to talk about, we can go to rapid fire.
No, we'll go rapid fire because we have a lot of books to go through this week. And, some of them are relatively light reading. Some of them I kind of regret reading. And we'll get to that when we get to another book that we both have in common.
Mm-hmm.
It's not that I regret reading the story. I regret having looked at it. So we'll get to that.
That's fair. Gotcha.
All right, here we go. Rapid fire.
I ain't got time to bleed.
All right, you go for it.
Waiting for
There we go.
There we go. All right, first up for me is Berserker, number 10 of 12. It's written by Keanu Reeves, and Matt Kint. Art by Ron Garney, colors by Bill Crabtree, and letters by Clem Robbins. So we are in the home stretch of this Berserker story. And let me tell you that a lot of revelations have come about in the last 2 or 3 issues of this book. The lead in, let's say the first half of this story, basically issues 1 through 5 were early history in the setup, but now we're really getting into some supernatural stuff that obviously was the precursors and the context of it was laid in those first 5 issues, but we're really neck deep into some supernatural stuff in the last half of this miniseries. So we are, as I said, in the home stretch. I'm kind of curious to see how this might translate into a Netflix show, because I know that's what this was initially developed for, some sort of streaming platform adaptation. And so I'd be kind of curious to see how they adapt this, because it's not the most direct storytelling. It's not, as black and white. There's definitely a lot more gray in terms of the storytelling here. There's plenty of action to adapt, but I think that the supernatural stuff, it doesn't come out of left field, but it's a little bit, it seems like there's a definite change in tone over the second half of the story. And so it might be somewhat jarring to people who aren't used to seeing that happen, but it was teased from the beginning. So that's what I'll say to anyone who kind of is uncomfortable with the direction of the story at this point. Next up for me is Nightwing number 96. It's written by Tom Taylor with art by Bruno Redondo, inks by Caio Felipe, colors by Adriano Lucas, and letters by Wes Abbott. So this is, believe it or not, a potential click of the week for me. I really enjoyed this issue of Nightwing. So this is the finale of the storyline, The Battle for Bloodhaven's Heart. And that story title has like a triple entendre buried in it. Because once you read this issue and you see the various levels that Tom Taylor is referring to when he entitles the story, The Battle for Bloodhaven's Heart, and how things play out over the course of this long running story. It's been running for a little while now. And certain things happen, certain things seem to have been dealt with some finality, but it's comic books, folks. Nothing is ever final, including death in comic books. Shout out to Uncle Ben. Because
and Bill Foster.
Right, and we don't know about Bill Foster yet, but we've seen Bucky come back. We've seen Gwen come back, sort of. So there are some characters that do come back, except for Ben Parker. So, but yeah, I really like this issue. It was really, there's certain parts of it that are just really well written. A lot of it really speaks to certain characters and the strengthening of a relationship that I know some people, depending on their vintage and their history with the Dick Grayson character, might be uncomfortable with. But bear in mind, I came up as a kid reading Robin, not so much in Batman, but in New Teen Titans. So I was used to seeing him with Starfire, but to see him with someone else, yeah, it's a little different. But it's obviously a long-standing relationship that DC is looking to run with, and especially Tom Taylor at the helm of Nightwing is looking to run with. There are probably some social media articles out there that have a couple of screenshots from this issue that are funny, with active censorship going on, but with, done very tongue-in-cheek. I don't know if Roddykat is familiar with some of these articles, or maybe some of the things that have been posted.
No, I don't think so.
Okay, well, I can always share it with him after the show, and he'll appreciate it. But yeah, I really liked this episode, this issue. I liked the way this story arc wrapped up. So this is a potential click of the week for me. Next up is, believe it or not, an Image book, Vanish #1. That's a #1 issue. We try to jump into those #1 issues to see if they're worth keeping up with. This is a creator-owned book from Donny Cates. It's written by Donny Cates, and I think it's also co-created by penciler Ryan Stegman. Inks are by J.P. Mayer, colors are by Sonia Obach, and letters are by John J. Hill. So this book deals with magic, and it does adapt some familiar tropes, some familiar ideas that we've seen adapted in recent magic-based stories, namely an academy, namely students, namely houses that these students are a part of. And we also get a little bit of a twist on the Thunderbolts original concept at the very end. So if you're intrigued by all of what I just said, you may enjoy reading this. I enjoyed it. I'm probably going to check out the next issue or two. I don't know if I would stick with this if I were pulling this physically, but I enjoyed this issue. I thought it was well written. There's a lot of exposition because Cates decides to knock out a lot of the background right away. The obvious Harry Potter parallels are there. But as I said, there is a twist on the original Thunderbolts concept in this as well. So it's interesting to see how, that superhero concept, is being, I don't know how long the Harry Potter thing is going to last. It may just be for the first issue. Maybe there'll be flashbacks to it. But ultimately, it's, there's a magical basis for the story. But as I said, that little twist at the end was interesting.
Question before you go on. So Donny Cates is an interesting writer, as you know. Sometimes he tends to go a little, for lack of a better word, balls out. Mm-hmm. is any of that in here?
Yeah, there's some of that.
Okay.
Yeah, he gives Stegman some space to really go a little crazy, but it's a little bit more of just, a little bit of gore, a little bit more, blood and violence than we're used to seeing them both do in the pages of Marvel Comics.
Gotcha. Okay.
It's creator-owned after all.
Exactly. I was about to say. Okay.
All righty. Next up, folks. Guess what? Guess what, folks?
I didn't know
Avengers
this was the one you were talking
60.
about.
What's that?
I didn't know this was the one you were talking about.
What do you mean?
About the one you said you kind of, or maybe I could be wrong. I don't know. About the one you said you kind of wish you hadn't read.
Oh yeah, this is it.
Yeah.
Avengers #60. This is the one I didn't mind reading. This is the one I minded looking at. Avengers #60 is written by Mark Russell, with terrible pencil art by Greg Land. Inks are by Jay Leaston. I know Roddykat would not have said that. That's why I do the credits, folks. Colors are by David Curiel, and letters are by VC's Corey Pettit. So this is a strict tie-in only Avengers issue to Judgment Day. This does not continue Jason Aaron's ongoing storyline with the that is supposed to tie in with the Avengers Forever book, which is also out this week. This is a strict tie-in dealing with a character who has gotten, to me, an unfair share of flack because of how the character is portrayed in the MCU.
Agreed.
And I will let Roddykat take it from there.
I agree with that. So yeah, this is sitting around Hawkeye. Oh, I also want to say I might be wrong about this, but this might be Mark Russell's first Marvel outing. I'm not entirely sure about that. I might be wrong about that.
That's a good question.
Yeah, because I know he's done some DC stuff and that aside, I have to look that up. Yeah, so this is centered around Hawkeye, and basically, as I say in my note, basically what he got into before or during the before X-4. So folks that did not know that the Celestial pretty much gave folks 24 hours before he passed his judgment, and has been going around kind of judging particular people or watching particular people and passing judgment after they watch them in that midst of that. This is pretty much what happens with Hawkeye. Now, the unfair flack thing is definitely apt in this episode also, because Hawkeye is one of my favorite characters, you know, even like before well before the MCU-ification of him, and, you know, even, you know, that great David Aja and Matt Fraction run where they pretty much celebrified him a little bit more. You know, still great. Nevertheless, when you put the man up against a mailbox, yeah, that's just where I draw the line. Nobody uses mailboxes to like they portrayed in this issue like that. No, nor do they talk glowingly about mailboxes to that extent these days in reality.
I don't think you can put a box in a mailbox right now.
Right, exactly. So I'm sitting here like, wait, yeah, exactly.
I kind of giggled at that, but guess who's responsible for drawing the box?
So that's another thing hold
on. Shots fired.
So if you're kind of new to the Comic Book Chronicles, and outside of the discourse of what's been going on Twitter with certain artists and writers, you know, this is not that. I'm just going to go ahead and say that right now. So that being said, Greg Land is I'm using air quotes for the folks who are not watching the video version. Air quotes, favorite artist on the through half of the Comic Book Chronicles hosting staff, put it that way.
Yeah, that is laced with sarcasm, folks. Laced. That is like, the sarcasm runs so deep in that statement.
And I just love bringing it up because it's so funny. It is funny to me.
So deep. So, you know, like I sound like Uncle Roger here, and you know what this.
I was going to ask you about a recent one, by the way, but yeah, go ahead. It's I haven't watched like a recent Uncle Roger thing, but this is what this just deserves.
Hiya.
You know.
You will like the recent one that I just saw, or I'll put it that way. Yeah. So. But nevertheless, like I said, to finish up for this, so this is pretty much during that 24 hours that you know, people waiting for judgment. The Celestial kind of makes its form in a couple of different ways. Hawkeye kind of talks to a couple of people. Talks to one particular person anyway, which was like, I didn't expect them to go to that person either. But I guess given recent events, with especially dealing with the newest version of Thunderbolts, I guess they would have some relation to each other. But nevertheless, like this is that, and what seems to be the judgment for Hawkeye coming out of this issue, which I guess I expected given what happened, but nonetheless, it was like, it could have gone either way, you know? But I guess they were kind of portraying it in a certain way to kind of swerve back the other way. So, you know, it was a decent issue. That's all I'll say about that. But it was just kind of funny. It was like, of all the characters that they could have kind of showed, I guess this would be the one for particular reasons. You know?
Mm-hmm.
Like the one with the proficiency that's kind of not necessarily one note, but you know, you can only do so much with that proficiently, even though he does it quite well, don't get me wrong, you know, in the you know, with the other folks on the team that has been with him, or even in the Avengers at any point in time, you know, it's kind of outclassed all the way around.
Right.
So anyway, that's all I would say.
Alrighty, next up for me is Avengers Forever #9. It's written by Jason Aaron with pencils by Aaron Cooter, inks by Cam Smith, colors by Guru EFX, and letters by VC's Corey Pettit. So this does continue Jason Aaron's, you know, overarching Avengers Forever story. This issue focuses upon Captain Marvel, aka Carol Danvers, and a version of Carol in the multiverse that the multiversal Avengers looks to recruit. And I thought this was a really well done issue. The character development here is strong. I've never been a big fan of, you know, alternate universes. This is to me was always one of the downfalls of the DC universe. But I like that, you know, these characters are being created and they're not trying to create like, you know, a new 52 and having like a bunch of different realities. They're just there, you know, for their character variants to be mined and used for the purpose of this story. All right, I'm okay with that. I hope they don't abuse it going forward and literally try to tell like multiversal stories, and we have to have a crisis of Marvel Earths at some point.
Nah, I mean, that's pretty much what Secret Wars kind of was, though. So I figured like they kind of did that already.
Well, Secret Wars was really about the Ultimate Universe. It was really about dealing with the Ultimate Universe, true, as opposed to like the you know, I know what you mean. Right. I know what you mean. Yeah. But I think that Secret Wars was really trying to put some final touches to, you know, get Miles into the Marvel Universe and to deal with some of the mess that had been created by like some of the decisions made like in the middle and the end of the Ultimate Universe.
Right.
Next up for me is no, we did Fantastic Four. Iron Cat #4 of 5. I know Roddykat also read this book. It's written by Jed McKay with art by Perry Perez, colors by Frank Darmada, and letters by VC's Ariana Mar, actually. You know, we actually, I think I decided unilaterally that we were going to pronounce it like Bill Maher. So this issue kind of is Tony Stark Iron Man focused, even though it is an Iron Cat / Black Cat story. This issue really focuses on Tony Stark, his history with Sunset Bane, and a lot of the interpersonal stuff that he's had to deal with over the course of his character's history. So that's what I have to say about this. That was my impression. I don't know what Roddykat has to. Roddykat can add what he wants.
So the only thing I'll say is that I find it funny that in the beginning of the issue that Felicia kind of not necessarily chastises Tony about the situation, but was like, you know, she really doesn't have room to talk about exes. You know, even though Tony's ex is the one kind of at the forefront of this issue, but it was her ex that kind of started the whole thing in the first place. So her going at Tony about, you know, about the evil ex that's trying to kill them. Right. Yeah, exactly. It was like, you know, like you don't have that in there. But outside of that, you know, this is a Jed McKay book, so it's kind of fun in itself. Like this was kind of I guess toned down from the from the Black Cat stuff, because obviously you're dealing with a couple of different characters. But it was nice. There was a couple of nice touches that showed up in this issue. And we saw the Silver Centurion show up, Unibeam, and I don't know if you like me, every time you see the Unibeam, you hit up Marvel vs. Capcom. So stuff like still little touches like that kind of came out in here. But ultimately, like, this issue kind of partially plays out like Leverage, or at least a part of Leverage, the show Leverage, if you've ever seen it, because it's basically about a bunch of a group of they call them bad guys, but they're like Robin Hoods, but they're basically bad guys that do good things, I guess. And there's like some grifting and stuff like that. So there was a little bit of leverage going on in the course of this book, with a conversation between a couple of characters that I found kind of interesting. Overall, it was a good issue.
Alrighty, next up is another book that we have in common. So the last three books I have are all books that Roddykat and I have in common. So we're going to be chipping away at the list of books he has to go through. Next up is Jane Foster and the Mighty Thor, number 4 of 5. It's written by Torunn Grønbekk, with art by Michael Dowling, colors by Jesus Bertov, and letters by VC's Joe Sabino. So this was close to being a potential click of the week for me. I really liked the writing in this book. This issue in particular, I thought, was written very strongly because the bulk of the issue really revolves around the title characters, Jane Foster, right? And we've alternately called the Mighty Thor Jane Foster, and obviously that was the original adjective to describe Thor Odinson's book. And so I really appreciated that this issue really dealt with the interplay between the two characters. Obviously, there are many aspects of the story that that are interwoven in here. Even the interaction with Sim, who we know as a foe of magic, Ilyana Rasputin. But I really appreciated, there's a parallel here with a little bit of Thor: Love and Thunder, but I definitely appreciated some of the character moments that are brought up here. And ultimately, I think the one disappointing part of this issue was the reveal splash page.
Yes, I agree with that.
I was very disappointed to see that.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, wait a second. One deity of this type should not be bowing to the other. A similar type.
Right. Not only that, we just saw this this character, which that doesn't necessarily limit it to from floating from one book to the other. But I'm pretty certain you just saw this.
This character plays a big role in the current Punisher book.
Exactly. So if you're keeping up with that, you know who we're talking about already. But yeah, I was kind of agreeing with you with the reveal. I'm like, really, it's him? Like, why? I would like to believe there's
Oh, go ahead.
No, I was about to say, I would love to believe there's a little bit more to it than just that. But if this is it, then I don't know. That's just kind of a boo.
Right. I mean, there might be a swerve in the end.
Right.
I just didn't appreciate that one was essentially prostrating himself in front of the other. And I'm like, wait, they're supposed to be basically equals.
And if I'm not mistaken, isn't technically the one that was bowing kind of older than the other? Relatively?
It depends.
Right.
Mythology is mythology, right? The adaptations are adaptations. The Marvel adaptations are what they are. Right. But ultimately, they occupy the same space. Mm-hmm. They literally occupy the same space as deities. And I'm like, wait, why is one bowing to the other?
Right.
That just doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
But as we said, there might be a swerve.
Yeah.
And
I believe we trust, it's safe enough to say that we trust Torunn Grønbekk enough to kind of pull this out. I mean, this is like, it's not like this is a big, it was like, wow, this just kills the whole thing. Nothing like that. But, just to see where it goes, we trust her.
Sure.
Maybe I'm speaking for myself, but I don't know.
No. I mean, she came up under Jason Aaron, and she came up, co-writing some stuff. So now she's got a good handle on, the comic book writing style, and I really appreciate that. She's given a voice to, an additional voice to Jane Foster, and obviously to Runa, the whatchamacallit, the stand-in for Tessa Thompson's Valkyrie.
Right.
So, all right. Last but not least, The Strange Number 6. It's written by Jed McKay with art by Lee Garbett, colors by Hava Tartaglia, and letters by VC's Corey Pettit. So, I enjoyed this issue. It's not Click of the Week material, but I enjoyed this issue because we actually get some real movement in the story, and it's all about what Wong is doing with a little bit of Bats, but it's really all about what Wong does. We don't see Clea Strange at all in this issue. It's about Wong and his pre-existing relationships in the Marvel universe. And it was interesting and incredible to see Wong get essentially a solo issue working with guest stars, and the way these guest stars were woven into the story it felt so organic. It wasn't forced. It all made perfect sense.
Yeah.
Obviously this is pre-Judgment Day because the world is not ending in this book. So this is all pre-Judgment Day. So I definitely appreciate that, that it's a Wong-centric story, 1, and 2, that the issue of the guest stars were done very well, and 3, we finally get a little bit of movement on this whole whatchamacallit, blasphemy cartel business. And I don't know if you're familiar with this alleged branch of S.H.I.E.L.D.
No, I was not.
I did not Google it to see if that was in fact something that pre-existed. I'm going to rely on Jed McKay and trust that this is in fact a long time thing that probably popped up once or twice.
I don't think it's a long time thing because I was going to look it up. I don't think it's a long time thing because I think I saw an article on it, not necessarily looked it up, but it's been around, I guess, within recent history, I guess. I might be wrong about that because I was like, yeah, but like you, this was definitely a new thing to me.
Right. I'm literally looking it up now. I'm looking at the fandom entry. So
while you're looking that up, oh, okay.
First appearance, Thunderbolts Annual #1, December 2013.
Okay, so yeah, I was kind of right then.
Right, so it's relatively recent, but not that recent.
Right.
It's just obscure.
Right. But it's also in the realm of S.H.I.E.L.D. having various organizations for various different things, not outside the realm of possibility. We just did not know,
Right. Yeah, different branches for different things. And we've seen branches, they've made up branches to deal with supernatural things before. There's a branch that, whatchamacallit, I don't know if they mentioned that in the current Ghost Rider series. I don't know if they mentioned this particular acronym there. That's why I was kind of taken aback.
Right. I don't think at least from what I remember reading about it, which granted was only the first couple of issues at this point, but yeah, I don't think they did actually. Because I know one character's like, yeah, they say that they're former S.H.I.E.L.D., but they don't really specify, what group they were with. Yeah. Right. So, but the only thing I have to say about this issue is, like, I kind of agree with Agent 70. And also, speaking of going back to pop culture references during the week, this issue kind of had some of that because the plot of it kind of reminiscent of as I say in my notes, a late 80s, early 90s movie. Not necessarily full Dude, Where's My Car, but kind of that ilk. Because the main character, that being Wong, has a hole in his memory and is trying to figure out, pretty much retracing the steps to figure out, where or what happened. So on that respect, it kind of is. And there's also another kind of a pop culture reference in a group that shows up that Wong deals with, at least by name in a way. So I was like, I don't know if that was intentional or not, but that was interesting to play out. So that's all I got to say about it.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, Bats is always great.
Absolutely.
Is that it for you, or you got?
Yeah, that's it. That's it.
All right,
Alrighty, that is it for me. So I knocked out a few of your books, so
Yep,
you
you
should
did.
have a few less books to deal with.
And the ones I have are actually, I think I only have. Oh no, I have more than what I thought. Anyway, let's just push this along, shall we? Batman Superman, World's Finest #7 starts off mine. So this is let's see, this book is written by Mark Waid, art by Dan Mora, colors by Tamara Bonvillain, letters by Steve Wands. We have talked about this in the news before. This is basically this is actually the tale of Superman's, I guess, former, but at this time frame of this story, sidekick, because Superman that we know of in the main continuity, and I'm saying this isn't because this is main continuity, but normally, Superman doesn't really have a sidekick. Like, Krypto's been around, Supergirl's been around, she's not really a sidekick, but nevertheless, et cetera, et cetera. There have been people. He's never had his own dedicated sidekick like Robin is to Batman. And this is the story of that said sidekick who shares pretty much a similar origin story to Superman, although slightly sad in a way, without going into it too far. And actually, that's pretty much all I'll say about that. It's going to continue next issue, and there's a big band that was introduced, or a seemingly big bad that was introduced at the outset of this issue. So where this sidekick story is going to go, or whether it's going to branch out into the DC universe at large, because this is set in like the past, basically, because we have Dick Grayson Robin with Batman. So that, if that tells you anything, and yeah, there's that. So we'll see what goes, if anything comes out of it. Next book for me, Black Adam #4 of 12. Soup. Cover it there. Written by one Christopher Priest. Matt Herms is on art. Colors by Willie Schubert. And I may have not gotten the rest of the creative team. Probably someone from Andor Design. Andor whatever. But I have to look that up in a second. This one is kind of a potential click of the week for me. I'm still kind of on the fence of that. Oh, wait. No, that's the wrong book. There we go. So we get a little bit more about the Pantheon that has kind of been hounding Teth Adam, and basically confirmed how Adam got into the predicament he's in, and what the Pantheon wanted with him. On the other side of that, we pretty much catch up with Malik, who still has the powers of that Black Adam gave him, kind of going about his day and being hounded by one Etrigan the Demon, who happens to show up in this book. And their interaction, or at least their interaction, was pretty much kind of funny, because you get this young hip hop loving dude and this this demon with a rhyming, I don't want to say rhyming fetish, but who tends to rhyme everything they say, and the interaction is kind of amusing for whatever reason it happens. So there is that. Next book is actually a surprise for me, because I haven't read this book in a while, or any related books in a while. The Flash, #786. As I sit here and try to find there we go. Sorry, folks. I'm trying to do a couple of things at once while I'm doing this. Let's see. Creative team, writer Jerry May Adams, art by Amin K. Nahulpen. I apologize if I butchered that name. Colors by Jeremy Cox and Peter Pantzis, and letters by A.W.'s Justin Birch. This is a Dark Crisis tie-in, which I don't know anything about. which you don't necessarily have to know that much about. Like there is a couple of things that get mentioned in this that I did know about from reading articles and whatnot, but overall, the Justice League, or not even the Justice League, but basically the heroes that are left of kind of putting out fires around the world, having to do with Deathstroke and other folks kind of doing things. And this is focused around the Flash family of Wally and Linda, who now has powers somehow kind of way, and their kids who are pretty much going around. I guess you could say it's a Flash family outing and helping out where they can. It's a fun book. You should you don't necessarily have to know about Dark Crisis to read this out, but it was a fun read, especially an interaction with one of the kids and Damian Wayne was pretty humorous. Let's see. Next book for myself, Edge of Spider-Verse #4. With a couple of creative teams, because there are four stories here. I think if you were with us last week, we'd said that usually Edge of Spider-Verse is where there's a breakout character that is introduced. Spider-Gwen being the one of note, I guess. But in this one, we have stories dealing with Spider-Ham, which is written by Jordan Bloom, art by Michael Scheffler, colors by Rico Renzi, Spinstress, which I think is a new character, which I know is a new character, written by David Hayne, art by Luciano Vecchio, and colors by Brian Reber. Spider-Mobile, which I'll get to that in a second, written by Tan Slott, art by Ty Templeton, and colors by Dono Sanchez Almara, and Sun Spider, who was written and created by T. Franklin, art by Jethro Morales, also I guess co-creation duties there, colors by Chris Sotomayor, and the whole thing was lettered by VC's Joe Caramagna. So I'm real briefly. First story is Spider-Ham, like I said, who's apparently been spending a little too much time with Spider-Man Noir. There is a new character that gets introduced, another new character in this, who I'm just going to call Spider Dad Jokes, and that pretty much says you everything you need to know about that. The second story is Spinstress, which is basically Disney Princess Spider-Person. Third story, it's a Spider-Mobile. So if you're of a certain vintage, you know that Spider-Man had a car, had a buggy specifically back in the 70s. Why? We don't know. No for reason. But hey, merchandising, we know that. In this particular case, let's just say that if there were Cars universe versions of Marvel characters, this would be one. And then, like I said, that's all I really need to say about that. And which there's a lot of Forrest Grumps, so I need to calm down on that. And the last one, Sun Spider, which is a disabled spider character, which on the internet went totally gaga over, because also the writer is also a disabled woman of color herself, even though the character is not a person of color. Nevertheless, doesn't matter. But you can definitely see, if you follow the writer T. Franklin, you can definitely see the inspirations there, because I do follow her, and some of this is written like it's coming straight out of her Twitter account. Let's just say that. And I'm not saying that's a bad thing; it is not. But you can get a sense of that from that. There's also going back to that Spider-Man one. There's a weird JoJo's reference there. I say it's a JoJo's reference, but the reference comes kind of before that. But I found that kind of funny. Excuse me. But yeah, that is that. So you definitely check it out. those, especially those middle two, and all of them are amusing for their own respects. But there's a couple of them that are like, this is some Disney ass shit right here. This is kind of funny. Let's see. Star Wars Darth Vader. Excuse me. Star Wars Darth Vader number 27 is my next book. I did not read Mandalorian this week, but just like I told you the last couple of times, it's pretty much an adaptation of the first season. So there's really nothing else to say about that. Greg Pak writes Star Wars Darth Vader, art by Raffaele Ienco, colors by Carlos Lopez, and letters by VC's Joe Caramagna. So Vader says a thing. He's been dealing with this governor who's had this death machine on this planet, and she's got one of Padme's old handmaidens with her, ex-handmaidens with her. There is a trick that he uses that is reminiscent of Luke in Return of the Jedi in this. That is used to a interesting effect, and apparently the government, the governor in question has had their own version of Iron Man armor, which I have dubbed War Darth Vader Buster. So if you know the characters that those are invoking, you know what I'm talking about. And of course, we find out who's behind this whole thing, but it should be no surprise to anyone who knows anything about Darth Vader. I'll put it that way. Next up, and my last book, which I kind of just skimmed, but I'm gonna talk about it either way. And I know Agent 70, I think, is going to read this. X-Terminators #1 of 5.
At some point, I mean, that and New Mutants, which neither of us was able to get to this week.
Right. Yeah. New Mutants was a 40th anniversary book, and I believe, what did you say it was? Was it Fidella's last on the book or coming up to?
Yes. Yeah. No. It's her last. I mean, that's a 30-issue run. She started this.
Right.
So she's had a good run on New Mutants. So you know, I think it's a good time for her to step off. You know, she's told a bunch of good stories. So, you know, and really brought a bunch of characters into the fold, as well as really incorporated some of the newer kind of class of New Mutants, as it were.
Mm-hmm. Right. I believe their pronoun is they, if I'm not mistaken. I might be slightly wrong about that, but I think that's right. So anyway,
Say again. I missed.
Vida Ayala's pronouns, I believe, are they.
Oh, I'm sorry. I believe. You know what? I'm ignorant and old, folks. What is this?
Boy, I'm too old for this shit.
Yeah, I believe that's right. So, but don't quote me. I have to go back and check. But either way, yeah, they've done some good work. So either way, that's gonna cover that. But X-Terminators #1 is written by Leah Williams, with art by Carlos Gomez, colors by Brian Valenza, and letters by VC's Travis Lanham. So basically, I'm just gonna read this off. Boom Boom and Jubilee take Dazzler out on the town after a bad breakup, and they get into some shit. Partially having to do with said bad breakup, apparently. But you know what? When you have 2 light-based mutants that can blow some, well, excuse me, 3 3 that can blow some shit up, you know, I think they're going to be all right. And at the end, if you're watching the video version, there's another character from the X-Verse that comes in at the end of this. It was a pretty good. I enjoyed the read of this. I'm kind of looking interested in seeing what comes next out of this. X-Terminators was an old '90s book. I believe Jubilee was involved with that version, which she was not.
Pre-Jubilee. This is X-Terminators is Inferno.
Oh right, okay, gotcha.
Right, so this is pre-Jubilee, like way before Jubilee. And X-Terminators was like WizKid.
Yes.
Boom Boom is
the
unifying character between the 2 versions.
Right.
You know, that was like WizKid, Artie and Leech were in the original.
Basically the X Factor kids, but you would have to know who those kids were.
Right.
From that.
But it was tied around. It was basically tied around the Inferno event.
Mm-hmm. That is correct. I forgot. Yeah. But there might actually. I might be wrong about this. Jubilee might have had a version of X-Terminators like in the last 10, 15 years, but I might be wrong about that. Or I might be thinking of Ecstatics now that I'm thinking about it. Either way, doesn't matter. It was a kind of a fun book, and I'm looking forward to the next issue. I want to go back and reread this again in case I missed something, though, because I kind of skimmed over it. But nevertheless, that is it for me, folks. Kliqs of the week.
Kliqs of the week.
This is when I should start using effects. We have a couple of books from our other hosts. Tim said he's going with Judgment Day number 5. X Judgment Day number 5 to be specific. As I put up the variant cover for that book. And Dirt said he went with, which I'm not sure if I have a cover for, Creep Show number 1. Yes, I do, actually.
Oh, it is a number 1. Okay.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I was about to say I was pulling up comic lists just to double check.
Yeah, actually, I think it's 1 of 5. Yeah, as a matter of fact, yeah, I do have it on here. It's 1 of 5.
Okay.
Yeah. And he says he said he watched a doc about the messed up production of Creepshow 2 the other day, so he was he was in the right mindset for reading this book. And it was definitely a lot of fun with a lot of schlock, which, if you know anything about Creepshow, that's probably what you're there for.
I was about to say I am unfamiliar with Creepshow as a concept, as a property. Who is the publisher on this?
I'm not sure. I can't see.
I'm looking that up right now. That's why Oh, it's Image.
Oh, yeah. Actually, I think it says.
It's an Image book.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. There's a... Wait, I think it's the Skybound also. Is it Image and Skybound? From what I'm looking at the cover. Either way, it's an Image book.
I'm pulling up the cover now, so...
Yeah, I have the cover up on screen.
It definitely is an Image book.
Yeah. Either way, if that's your thing, have at it. Do you have...
Oh, yeah, it does look like Sky... Yeah, that's Skybound next to the Image logo.
Right.
Yeah.
So...
Do I have a click?
Yes,
I have 2 strong candidates, like 2 really strong candidates.
Okay.
One of them is Nightwing. It wouldn't be the first time I chose Nightwing.
Right.
But the other is A.X.E. Judgment Day number 5, because we waxed poetic about it.
We really did.
And it feels like it would be a shame to waste all of that hot air and not pick A.X.E. Judgment Day number 5 of 6 as my click of the week. So I'm going to go with that. A.X.E. Judgment Day number 5 of 6. I'm going to back Tim Dog 98 up on that.
Solid. Matter of fact, yeah, let me put that in there while I'm thinking about it right now. For myself, I definitely can go along with one of those because X was pretty good. The Flash actually was one for me, as I said, because like I said, even though I have not been keeping up with anything with the Dark Crisis book, as a standalone issue, that one actually was a pretty fun read. Jane Foster kind of was one. Strange actually was I've been liking that book anyway. I kind of glossed over it, but I think I'm actually going to. Oh yes, Black Adam. I don't think I said Black Adam number 4 was also. But out of my actual.
You mean Iron Cat?
No. Sorry, Black Adam.
Oh, Black Adam.
Yeah. Black Adam was definitely one. Flash was one, and X. I think those were pretty much the 3 main ones as potentials. But I think, like I said, I'm actually going to very much swerve and say X-Terminators number 1, even though I kind of glanced over that book.
All right. I was about to say you pasted A.X.E. Judgment Day into your slot, so I'm typing in X-Terminators number 1 into your slot on Kliqs of the Week.
Okay. Thank you. And
I literally just noticed. I'm like, wait a second. I think he meant to paste it into my slot.
Yeah, I did actually, and
and put it in, and you put it into your own. I'm like, no, I think this is what he means.
Being too happy, trying to get stuff out the way. So anyway, folks, speaking of getting stuff out the way really quickly, we are going to go into the news section, but first an ad read.
Yes, we're going to go through the news very quickly because we had a lot to talk about leading off the show. So. Our first ad read of the night is for Funko, Fun at First Sight. It's your home for exclusive collectibles such as their world-famous pop vinyl bobbleheads, apparel including t-shirts, hats, and socks, and brand merchandise such as their custom DIY pop figures, art books, and skateboards. And now the listeners of the Comic Book Chronicles can enjoy 10% off your entire purchase when shopping at Funko. To place your first order with 10% off and to help keep our show free for you, go to our network website at cspn.us. That's cspn.us. Then click on the Keep Our Podcast Free link at the top of the page. From there, scroll down to the Funko link and place your order. When you get to the checkout, put in the offer code SHOP10 for your 10% off discount. Funko through cspn.us. Do it today. And now we get into something we're going to try to go quickly through, the news.
And as I try to transition over, boop, beep, whoop. Cinematic news. MCU star Sebastian Stan opens up about finally joining the Thunderbolts. According to the Direct, the Winter Soldier actor was on stage with the rest of the Thunderbolts cast at D23 Expo to talk about the upcoming film, which is set to close out Phase 5 of the MCU. Quote, well, listen, you know, these are my kinds of people, explained Stan as to why Bucky Barnes was a part of the titular team. They look like a good, troubled bunch, and maybe I know a thing or two about that, and I'm just really glad to be back. I guess join a team of some sorts, end quote. So there you go. Next up.
Ant-Man and the Wasp villain teases her complicated Thunderbolts return. So Hannah John Kamen discussed in an interview after D23's announcement the character's return, and when asked how Ghost will factor into the group's dynamic, John Kamen answered, well, she doesn't like to be touched, so that's going to be interesting. She's quite socially, well, she's not social. She grew up in the vat, so she never had human contact with anyone. It's going to be interesting for Ghost to connect. And basically, she also talks about how the Thunderbolts are going to bring together these characters from the disparate franchises and cap off Phase 5 of the MCU. So, you know, take a look at this article to see what else she has to say.
Hi, Hannah John Kamen. She's if some folks may know her from Killjoys. She was great in that. So, you know, good stuff. Ant-Man 3, Kevin Feige confirms Quantum Mania ties to that. Just try that again. Quantum Mania ties directly to Avengers 5, basically. So which was going to be Avengers: The Kang Dynasty for those who did not know. So it says here that early reports had Kang as the primary antagonist of the movie, which continues the story of two generations of heroes in the form of Hank Pym, Janet Van Dyne, Scott Lang, and Hope Pym. No surprise that the team up movie will deal with his master plan, rolls out of the events of the events of Quantumania, which in turn is likely to be tied to the shenanigans in the first season of Loki, of course, and roll right into Avengers: The Kang Dynasty when that happens in 2025, which doesn't seem like a real date. But this article just kind of goes on to make the connection in between, or speculate on the connection between those movies and such, that we don't necessarily have to go through. You can check it out in the show notes. Next up.
So apparently, in the MCU at least, the Avengers are no more because Kevin Feige has let it be known that that is the fact, and there's a vacuum in the MCU that the Thunderbolts are going to look and try to fill. So this is not unlike what happened in the wake of Onslaught. It's a parallel, at least. So, you know, this is not, you know, unprecedented in the comic book realm. So it makes some sense that this might happen. But ultimately, we also know that there are future movies that have the Avengers title in it. So we have a sneaking suspicion that this is a temporary thing.
Sure.
Next.
Excuse me. Or at the very least, it's not going to be the Avengers that we've already been accustomed to, I'll put it that way.
Right. It'll be a form of Avengers.
Right. The Marvels first footage reveals Carol, Monica, and Kamala combining powers. So this was pretty much behind closed doors at D23. We kind of talked about it, but we kind of didn't. I don't think we mentioned the fact that there was closed door footage at the expo. But if we did, then
we did. Well, we just didn't know. We obviously didn't have enough information to talk about what had been shown. You know, obviously with leaks coming out, more, you know, like more leaks coming out, we're going to find out more about it.
Right.
But we only mentioned that there was stuff that was not shown and not released. We only were able to literally talk about the stuff that was made public at the behest of Disney and Marvel.
Right. But basically the crux of it is looks like all those characters will be trading places whenever one of them uses their powers, according to this article. So there's that.
Right. So it's a bit of a play on the historical Marvel Rick Jones story. So it's an adaptation of that and dealing with Spectrum and Kamala Khan.
Right.
So, you know, it's definitely a remix.
To say the least.
It is. It's definitely a
You're right.
remix
No, you're
of
right.
that concept and adapting it to, you know, dealing with, you know, this crop of Captain Marvel based characters. So, next up, Ms. Marvel has reportedly been greenlit for a second season. So,
Well,
though
again,
these reports are currently unconfirmed.
right.
So this is according to a quote unquote scooper, and you know, that's the most information that we have so far.
Right. Normally we try to don't put too much stock on reports and stuff like that, but you know, certain things that are titillating, you know, you want to at least address, I guess. Thor: Love and Thunder concept art reveals vastly different Eternity design. So yeah, concept artist Jeremy Love, no relation, posted a series of images to his Instagram showcasing one of the several early iterations of Eternity for the film, which includes Eternity towering above a brutalist-inspired stone gate. The conceptualization of Eternity seems more closely resembles the character's typical look throughout the various Marvel Comics titles than Eternity ultimately used in the final version of the film. And if you're watching the video version of this program, you can see, I guess, some concept art from the tweet that was mentioned. Next up.
Regal Black. This is a Regal Cinemas. Actually, no, it's not. It's just a Regal.
Right.
So a Regal looking, oh, man, titles, you know, syntax, grammar, right? So it's a Black Panther 2 poster that portrays the characters Shuri, Nakia, and Queen Ramonda in a very regal way. That's the best way to put it. Unites the women of Wakanda. So this is a poster done by Ryan Minerding, who is the VP and creative director of the visual development at Marvel Studios. So that's pretty cool.
Yeah. Again, if you're watching the video version, you can see said image. Marvel Studios defends controversial Captain America 4 superhero casting, which I did not know there was a controversy about it, but
There was?
Yeah, apparently. So this was centered around the casting of Israeli actor Shira Haas as Sabra, the mutant Mossad agent, the superhero that we know is coming to Captain America: New World Order. Apparently, says here, according to this article at least, the character has caused some measure of controversy. But it's the internet. I'm not surprised because people are stupid. Anyway, when asked about the issue by the New York Times, Marvel Studios declined to answer. However, in a statement, the studio said, while our characters and stories are inspired by the comics, they are always freshly imagined for the screen and today's audience. And the filmmakers are taking a new approach to which the character Sabra, who was first introduced in the comics over 40 years ago, end quote. So, it says here, the controversy surrounding Sabra's inclusion is rooted in the Israeli-Palestinian conflict. Several human rights organizations, including Amnesty International, has criticized Israel's policies towards Palestine, stating Palestinians are treated as inferior, comparing their systematic suppression to apartheid. So I guess that's where that stems from. And it says that there are concerns that by introducing Sabra, the MCU would potentially appear to glorify Israel, according to this article.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay, next up.
Next up, so Armor Wars, the Disney Plus series, is officially set to introduce War Machine's personal arsenal of high-tech suits. Marvel's official description for the series confirms Don Cheadle's James Rhodey Rhodes, aka War Machine, will be donning multiple suits of high-powered armor throughout the series. So, it actually says featuring different types of armor. And I'm like, so who's built? I guess he had a stash of these armors?
That's what I would be thinking. Like maybe there's like 2 or 3 that Tony had to the side or something.
Maybe.
Yeah.
Maybe. So I'm like, who's building it? Are they going to put Riri in this?
No.
Or are they going to Are they going to give Rhodey a version of the Forge that Spidey had?
I mean, that could actually possibly could be the case.
That might be it.
Yeah.
That might be it. You'd think that, I guess they each bring their own specialized information and knowledge to the building process and the design process.
Right.
That wouldn't be the worst storytelling move.
Right. I mean, in relation to Tony, obviously he would know where there's some, he would definitely have access and would probably know where some wars are anyway. So
it's all about whether or not you need to be as smart as Peter to really utilize it.
Right.
That's the kicker. Like you would hope that it would be something that Rhodey would be able to, like I said, use his expertise to adapt his, and utilize the input that he can give to design a suit.
Or it was made, or the one that's probably made for him is kind of specially tied to him. That way you won't have to, like I guess that's kind of what you were saying.
That's what I was getting at, exactly.
Yeah.
Like tying to his expertise as opposed to like giving Peter kind of free reign with his forge.
Right. So, yeah. But we don't know. Like I said, I'm part of me is still kind of going through this and that he probably just Tony had some extra suits, extra War Machine suits, or probably made some and we just hadn't seen them, Especially since what happened to Roddy during whatever movie, Civil War.
I'm sorry, I didn't realize this next story that you're about to read. Ooh.
Yes, Sony delays 3 Marvel movies, including Kraven the Hunter, and Madam Web. So according to this quote, there are movies I would call adjunct to the Spider-Man universe. Says Sony President Tim Rothman previously said of Sony's Marvel plans. That's Kraven, which we are shooting now, and Madam Web, which we will start shooting in spring, with S.J. Clark directing. And then there are many Marvel characters that are standalone. But according to this article, also it says that Sony Pictures announced new release dates for those 3 movies. Those 2 included. I'm not sure what the other one though. Let's see. Kraven the Hunter is moving from January 13th, 2023 to October 6th, 2023. Madam Mask is moving from October 6th, 2023 to February 16th, 2024. And there's another currently untitled Sony Marvel movie that is previously dated for June 7th, 2024, which will pretty much come up a month later in July 12th, 2024. So I kind of wonder if that's probably the new Peter movie. I don't know, but it doesn't really say. Either way, yeah, they're getting pushed. There you go, folks. Ain't really much else to say about that except for why those exist. Next up, believe it or not, the New Mutants Fox movie that was originally released in theaters on August 28th, 2020 is coming to Disney Plus on October 14th, 2022 in time for Halloween. They probably timed it for that. Likely. Which I still haven't seen that movie. And actually there's some kind of related news, actually, now that I'm thinking about it, that's coming up later on in the news story. Did
it dropped to Netflix, right? Or Hulu? I forget which streaming service had it.
Probably Hulu, more likely, because I don't remember seeing it on Netflix.
Okay.
Yeah. But next up, actually, this is news. This is probably good news for Agent 70, even though there's always already an avenue for this. Disney
I own
Plus.
it.
Well, that too. I also own it. Disney Plus adds Spectacular Spider-Man animated series in October.
Spectacular Spider-Man. You started singing. I'm gonna finish.
Hey, that's that was what I was going for. So yeah, Spectacular Spider-Man is going to be on Disney Plus. I believe we had a recent article saying that it also came through Netflix. I believe that was a couple of weeks ago, if I'm not mistaken.
Right. So I guess that's going to be the transition.
Mm-hmm.
It's going to go from Netflix to Disney Plus. What's the date on that?
So according to this is kind of what gives me pause about that statement, what you just said, because one, it hadn't been on Netflix that long, and two, according to an independent fan site, what's on Disney Plus, it says October 19th for that. So grain of salt, basically, because I don't think this has been officially confirmed anywhere. And
well, it says at the bottom of the article, October 19th.
Well, yeah, I mean, it says, like I said, the second, the first paragraph says that, and it does note that it's on Netflix. So I don't know if it's, so like I said, it's still grain of salted though, because like I said, I don't know if we have any.
Oh, you mean whether or not it's going to come off Netflix?
Or that too, or whether it's going to actually be. Like I said, this is coming from some fan site, so we don't. So this article just kind of run with the fact that it's going to be on October 19th. I see.
Right. I didn't read the article all the way through, so now I see what you mean, because this is still kind of speculation.
Exactly, and like I said, the fact that it just came to Netflix, I don't know if they just pull it off that quick. So if they were going to pull it off at all, it could be in multiple places. Exactly, it could very well exist in multiple places if it's going to if it's going to do that. Nevertheless, next up.
So in some sad news, but understandable at this point, Disney has removed the Patty Jenkins Star Wars film Rogue Squadron from its release calendar because it's been beset by problems. It no longer holds its December 22nd, 2023 release date, according to Variety. Yeah, like we said, this news does not surprise any of us because it has been a troubled production. It was delayed in November indefinitely, last November, and there were creative differences between Lucasfilm and Patty Jenkins. So we'll see if this ever sees the light of day.
Yep. But just like something else that we'll talk about later on, it very well could. American-born Chinese.
I was about to say, Black Adam eventually made it.
Yeah, that is also true. Yeah. American-born Chinese first look with Michelle Yeoh stars as mythological goddess in Disney Plus series. So this also was announced. Actually, it kind of sort of was announced at Disney at D23, but I didn't really. It wasn't in any articles that we had initially, and I think it might have come out like a day or two after or something like that. I'm not sure. Either way, it's a new Disney Plus show. I just thought I'd bring this up. Now, you may be wondering what the comic book angle of this. It is based off of a genre-hopping graphic novel by Jean Luen Yang of the same name. So, just in case you were kind of curious about that and wondering why this is news, there you go. And because of the fact that it's Michelle Yeoh, that's also why I just would have put it in here in first. I'm not ashamed about that fact, because we love some Michelle Yeoh around these camps. So it says here, American-born Chinese tells the story of Jin Wang, Ben Wang, I guess is the actor, an average teenager juggling his high school social life with his home life. When he meets a new student on his first day of school year, even more worlds collide as Jin is unwittingly entangled in a battle of Chinese mythological gods. So there you go. It is going to be released on Disney Plus sometime in 2023. And it goes through some of the creative team behind some of the episodes and cast. So, next up.
The Witcher Season 3 has wrapped filming. Season 3 of Netflix's hit fantasy series, which I've never watched. Have you, Roddykat?
I watched the first couple of episodes and said I'd come back to it.
Okay. So, it has wrapped production, as I said, after 5 months and a minor delay. And let's see when the anticipated release date is, if there is one. Oh, so it does not have a premiere date set right now, but the first 2 seasons are on Netflix.
Yep. Superman and Lois cast Walking Dead actor as classic Superman villain. So, Walking Dead alum Chad L. Coleman's villain in Superman and Lois Season 3 has been officially confirmed to be Bruno Mannheim, head of Intergang.
Okay.
And I only know that character from the Superman animated series. And
I was going to say, I'm like, how is that a classic villain if that's the only time I've ever seen that character? But
well, I mean,
what?
other people probably have, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Obviously it's an adaptation of the comic book character, but again...
Boy, I'm getting too old for this shit.
Indeed. So, and we've seen Intergang, I believe, in the Justice League cartoon, but I don't think Bruno Mannheim was. Either way, there you go. There's that. Next up.
Stargirl star Breck Basinger, or Basinger, has seemingly...
yeah.
Is it Basinger?
Mm-hmm, yeah. As in...
Just like Kim Basinger?
Her daughter, yes.
Oh, I didn't even realize that. Look at that. I was guessing at that. I did not realize that was her daughter. Has seemingly confirmed a crossover between Stargirl and Titans. Oh, stay away from that show, girl. Sharing a behind-the-scenes photo in which she, in her Stargirl costume, is posing with Titan star Ryan Potter, a.k.a. Beast Boy. Okay.
Honestly, if you see her, you can kind of tell. I'll put it that way.
Okay.
I mean, you wouldn't necessarily say put it as a 1-to-1, but you can kind of tell. Either way, so yeah, I kind of agree with you to stay away from the Titans thing, but hey, what you gonna do? J.J. Abrams' Constantine and Madame Xanadu TV series dead at HBO Max. So put that on the list of dead projects at HBO Max, folks. But there's a slight bit of good news in the next article, I think. At least I know for some folks. So yeah, the reporting reveals Warner Brothers Television and J.J. Abrams' Bad Robot are still on board with both projects and expect to find a new home for them elsewhere. We all know about what's going on. Well, we kind of sort of know what's going on over at HBO Max and Warner Brothers. So it's wrapped up in all of that. Next up.
Deadline reports that Warner Brothers is developing a brand new sequel to the 2005 Constantine movie. Keanu Reeves is back as Constantine. Whoa. With Francis Lawrence back to direct Constantine 2. Deadline also reports Akiva Goldsman will write the screenplay and produce the project through his Weed Road Pictures alongside Bad Robot's J.J. Abrams and Hannah Minghella. Okay.
Yeah. I still have not seen this movie, but I know there are people who love this movie and
never watched it myself either.
Yeah, it's on. I know it's on HBO Max. I believe it's also on Netflix. I might be wrong about one of the. Oh, I know HBO Max definitely because I saw it. But I think it might be on Netflix also. So I guess I'll probably watch it one of these days. Who knows? While it's still at one of those places. Black Adam finally shows Pierce Brosnan in his Dr. Fate suit. So there's a new commercial for Black Adam that finally, the movie, by the way, folks, in case that wasn't clear. I don't know why it wouldn't be, but finally shows Pierce Brosnan clad in the attire of Dr. Fate, the former James Bond actor's character in the upcoming DC Extended Universe movie. There you go, folks. Then it goes through to the beats of the commercial, which I will not go through, but if you are watching the video, you can see Pierce Brosnan in the suit, or at least partially, without helmet, because you know that's how movies do. Next up.
Of course, we make jokes about that all the time.
Oh yeah.
Next up in an article by our very own @TimDog98, Warner Brothers Discovery may find itself bought out by NBC Universal at some point in 2024. This is according to analysts in several trade publications. So, the speculation in the Hollywood Reporter was that the head of Warner Brothers Discovery is looking to get the place sold, and that the folks over at NBC Universal are looking to upgrade what they have because Peacock stinks. So, or at least that's the attitude. That's the position that this particular analyst has taken. And so, with the Warner Brothers Discovery stock being low, it seems that they might be ripe for a merger. that kind of sucks because that's a lot of IP under one umbrella.
Yes. Plus, it's NBC Universal, which some would wonder, one, if they have the money to pull off such a merger, if not, the expertise to.
Right. What there's some speculation that they might sell off shares into from Hulu, and maybe that might actually, finance the purchase.
Kind of offset some stuff. Discovery. Yeah. Speaking of, I was going to talk about that new Quantum Leap, which started this week. I did not get a chance to watch it yet, but I will definitely mention it next week when I do. Invincible's third season apparently is already in production, according to Kari Payton, who says that he has finished recording season 2 and is in the process of recording the subsequent season 3. So that's good news. At some point, we'll get season 2 of that doggone show. And
I was about to say, we haven't seen a season 2, and they're talking about season 3 being in production. But that's the nature of animation.
Right. Well, yeah, trying to get a lot of enough stuff out of the way so they can, because obviously the voice work, is one thing they can got to get a good bit out of the way of, or some of it at least seem to be get out of the way of, outside of the animation and whatever. So that makes some sense, But nevertheless, at some point we'll get season 2, much less season 3 of Invincible. Now we're going to go into definitely not that anime corner.
Alrighty, so Genshin Impact, I guess, is a video game.
Yep.
And it is about to get an anime adaptation, according to the writer of this article, of course. So I am unfamiliar with this game concept. So if you have anything to add, Roddykat, go ahead.
Sure.
Because that's the news.
Yes. So yes, Genshin Impact is basically an open world MMO. If folks out there who've played Zelda Breath of the Wild, it's pretty much a lot like that. It's got a gacha component in it, in that you can get characters if you have enough currency to add to your party, and this and that and the other. But now it's getting an anime, which surprised it hasn't had one before now. As granted, this game's been out, probably about 2-3 years, or probably longer overseas. But yeah, there you go. Next up, Jujutsu Kaisen sets date for next season 2 update, which basically is like it's an update on an update. As someone pointed out to me, I'm like, yes, that's exactly what it is. So, let's see. There's a countdown to the second season ending on 7:55 on September 25th. That's JST, so I guess that would be the 26th over here. That more Jujutsu Kaisen news is on the way. I don't know where that is. It's 6 p.m. September 25th JST, so I'm not sure where that relates to over here. Nevertheless, we will find out around that time. if not the 25th, it'll probably be the 26th for us, I guess. I don't know. So, or the 20. Anyway, you know what? I'm not going to shut up now. Next up.
Right. So, Jujutsu Kaisen 0, the movie, has arrived on Crunchyroll. I know this is supposed to drop midweek this week. Obviously, we are inundated with content, folks. We literally had like 40 minutes of discussion at the top of the show just on the content that we had to watch in the last week. So my understanding is that it dropped, like on Wednesday or Tuesday, something like that?
Yes.
So it's out there now on Crunchyroll if you subscribe. So I have not watched it yet. I was planning on doing it this weekend. Hopefully I can squeeze it in probably right after I watch Rings of Power.
Have you done your changeover?
To Crunchyroll? Yeah. It's been
okay.
a while. It's been a couple of months.
Gotcha. So I saw this out there. I was like, I need to go watch that. But I hadn't done it yet. Last in the anime news, Mob Psycho 100 voice actor quits over union dispute. The voice actor of the titular character Mob from the popular anime Mob Psycho 100 revealed that he left the series due to a disagreement with Crunchyroll. In a video uploaded to his YouTube channel, voice actor Kyle McCarley, so it's the English dub, shared that it's unlikely he will reprise his role as Mob due to Crunchyroll's unwillingness to discuss using union SAG-AFTRA contract.
Ooh, that's good.
Yeah, no, I've been hearing stuff about this lately, and from not just this person, but like other voice actors apparently, and so that's not good on Crunchyroll, and I guess by proxy Sony, who owns them now. Which you forget about that part. But anyway, McCarthy said that the dispute doesn't boil down to money. Crunchyroll's, according to this article, simply doesn't want to use a union contract. He explained that he doesn't typically accept non-union work, rightfully so. With 99.9% of the work that I do, quote unquote, that would be the end of the conversation for me, I would say. Thank you very much for the opportunity, but I don't work non-union. So good for him on that. So
alrighty, so we're transitioning over to the manga news / comic book news.
Mm-hmm.
Play. Thank you. Hunter x Hunter manga finally returns in November of this year. So as reported by Polygon, the Shonen Jump Twitter account confirmed that the next volume of Hunter x Hunter will be released in Japan on November 4th. Okay.
Cool.
The previous volume was last released on October 4th, 2018, so it's been a while.
Yeah, just a bit. I know people are.
Yeah, unfortunately, it was due to health issues that the creator was stopped from. He was forced to stop, so that's unfortunate. But thankfully, it looks like the creator is now able to return to the series.
Yeah, and I think we talked about that when that happened. But anime fans' massive manga collection displays in a museum because it belongs in a museum. So, as reported by the Asahi Shimbun, manga collector Takanobu Sugi recently donated his entire Tezuka collection to the Hashima Movie Museum, a museum in Hashima City. Suge's collection has become the centerpiece of a new display dedicated to Osamu Tezuka of Astro Boy fame, if folks did not know that, which I'm sure folks did. Let's see. It's presented in celebration of Astro Boy's 70th anniversary. In addition to Astro Boy, Tezuka's most famous series, Suge's collection also features memorabilia related to the artist's other works, including The Jungle, Emperor, and Blackjack. And I believe I only know of one of those outside of Astro Boy. So, cool. Next up.
Nintendo revealed the fitness boxing Fist of the North Star game.
Yes.
On Tuesday for release in March 2023 in English and in Japan on December 22nd. Really?
I saw this and laughed my ass off. I'm like, because if you know about Fist of the North Star, it's kind of similar to One Star in that it kind of revolves around like the character gets one punch off of you and that's your ass. To a point, anyway. I mean, yeah, there's some Dragon Ball style fighting to a point, but ultimately, like once you get hit that one time, just that's it. Your head explodes. That's it. But they made a fitness boxing game out of it, which I thought was silly, but also slightly genius. So, will I play it? No, but nevertheless, I will very much look at some gameplay footage of that one of these days when there's more of it. Diamond Select reveals Power Rangers statue.
All right, so this is for the Switch.
Oh, sorry. Yes. Yes, that the boxing game was for the Switch. Yes.
All right.
All right.
Go ahead.
Diamond Select reveals a Power Rangers statue featuring the new Green Ranger. So, yeah, Diamond Select is bringing one of the newer additions to the Power Rangers franchise to life with the latest gallery diorama. Let's see. It says here that for $54.95, you can get the newest Green Ranger from the Mighty Morphin Power Rangers book from the Boom series, which is not Tommy. It is Matthew Cook, which is one of the is a friend of the Rangers, which that all whole thing came together. But in true Rangers fashion, eventually they didn't know who it was at first, and then they did, and it wasn't a surprise because it was someone close to them. Not a surprise. So yeah. Actually, wait. It says here you can pre-order for $54.99, but it actually retails for $59.99 and expects to ship in the spring of 2023. And if you're watching the video version, you can see the version. You can see the statue there. Next.
Mattel details a He-Man 40th anniversary figure. So this was revealed in a video that detailed the design process. So yeah, this is a 40th anniversary figure that looks pretty detailed and pretty impressive. If you're a big fan of Motu stuff.
Exactly.
You know, Motu came a little bit after I kind of started to get out of like my initial run on action figures as a kid. But I had a He-Man figure, but I didn't really dive into like Grayskull or anything like that.
Yeah,
I had
same.
friends who did though.
Which I kind of want to do the Masters of the Universe thing, but I'm not going to do that. So we're going to push
What do you
on.
mean now?
Yes,
Okay.
but now I'm not going to do that. Yeah, I'm kind of with you on that, but basically, I think I might have had a He-Man figure and probably a Man at Arms and or a Skeletor or something like that.
All I had was He-Man. Like I had a friend, like a neighbor kid who I played with, who had like some more Motu stuff, but we didn't have much together.
Right.
You know, like he had, who you know, he like we're still kind of friends now. But we obviously fallen out of touch. But he had more Star Wars stuff. I had more G.I. Joe stuff.
Gotcha. Oh, speaking of that, G.I. Joe came out this week that I didn't read. Anyway, Hasbro PulseCon announces 2022 return with Star Wars.
That's not the final issue,
No,
right?
it's still got two
That
more
we're
to go.
talking about? Okay.
Yeah.
Sorry to interrupt. Go ahead.
No, that's right. Hasbro PulseCon announces 2022 return with Star Wars and Transformers exclusives. So it's set to stream live from September 30th to October 1st. Apart from celebrating Hasbro's dozens of fan favorite brands, PulseCon will be hosted by Holes actor Cleo Thomas, and is slated to reveal a plethora of new products, as well as news of various upcoming projects. Alongside the announcement, Hasbro has revealed the new figures from G.I. Joe, Transformers, Andor, and The Mandalorian. So stay tuned for no news on that after that happens. Next up.
Alrighty, so Hasbro Pulse has come out with a new announcement of a HasLab project that is Marvel based, and that is the Engine of Vengeance. That is Robbie Reyes' Ghost Rider, including the Hell Charger. It looks really good.
Mm-hmm.
It also has a couple of stretch goals. One of them is announced here in this, in this article, where a human Robbie Reyes is one of the incentives once the project is backed. There is a stretch goal though, and that stretch goal that comes with. I'm actually pulling up the project now. Because I believe it was announced officially that one of the stretch goals is Mephisto.
Mephisto
Right?
confirmed. I don't know. I didn't.
Right. So it's actually going to be. There's actually going to be a Mephisto action figure. It's actually not on the Hasbro Pulse website, but I did see an article about it in my social media feed. And that's my understanding.
Mm-hmm.
It has to reach a certain level of backing. Right now, this project is not yet fully funded, but it is more than halfway there with more than 38 days left. We'll see. This is an expensive project.
Mm-hmm.
With the Hell Charger, there's lights. Obviously, they're doing a lot more with these HasLab projects. You know, they incorporate a lot more electronics and lights into Galactus, and that's what they're using to, jack up the price on the Hell Charger. But this is going to cost you $350 to back. So hopefully, enough people back it so that you can maybe make some of this money back by maybe selling some of the other figures, if you're not happy, if you don't care for them. But maybe you get more for your money if enough people back it. That's what HasLab is hoping.
Right. So you said you're on the thing. Did it reach the goal that it was trying to, the first goal? that it was trying to get to before
Not yet.
the end of the day? Okay.
Not
'Cause-
yet. It's at it's more than halfway though. The target is 9,000. It's
Right.
more than 5,300.
Hmm.
So we'll
Actually-
see if it matches it by
Well, technically, it's over with now, but
October 31st.
right, or at least that initial, yeah. So, okay. Next up, Marvel's next ride at Disneyland has been revealed. It will feature multiverse battle against King Thanos. So this came out of D23 Expo.
Oh, I'm sorry.
What's that? What? What?
The first tier after 9,000 is 12,000. I just had to keep scrolling in the article. The Mephisto information is on the HasLab project website. So the project has to get to 12,000 backers in order to unlock Mephisto. I apologize.
Okay. Disney Parks has revealed the next phase of its Avengers campus at Disney California Adventure. It's a new ride that'll focus on the Marvel multiverse. That ride hasn't been hasn't been named yet. Excuse me, apologies. But we will see riders assist in a grand multiversal battle against the aforementioned King Thanos, and will feature multiple iterations and versions of Marvel heroes. There's a promotional image that's shown in this article. Looks like it shows off a mix of iconic Avengers characters from recent or upcoming Disney Plus shows, and some variant characters all doing battle against King Thanos. So, and that will be, I guess they're doing that now, but I don't see when that's going to come into play. I guess it might already be there. Well, it'll probably be there soon, regardless. Anyway, next up.
Marvel Entertainment and Motive Studio are teaming up for an all-new Iron Man video game, kind of similar to what had been rumored before, in that it's an all-new single-player, third-person action-adventure Iron Man video game, probably from the point of view of the armor. It's from within the armor itself.
No, it's third person.
It'll give you a view from inside. That's my guess.
Maybe. So actually, I thought I had it, but there's the old Iron Man game that Sega did that was terrible, by the way. But I still want to get it and play it on stream one of these days if I can find it. But yeah, I want to say, so I saw this and I was like, is this that same one that was brought up previously and got canceled? Could very well be, but I'm not entirely sure. But they're saying that this is all new, and that might have, I'm not sure if that was with EA or with a different company. And
right, I think that one is the
studio.
one that's supposed to be first person. This one seems to be third person. My guess is that they might do targeting first person. We'll see, just to give people that HUD display. So we'll see.
Maybe, yeah.
That's
we'll
just
see.
speculation on my part.
Right. So we shall see. It was interesting to see this after, like I said, knowing that there had been a previous project fairly recently canceled. Not like recently, but like not too long ago canceled, and then this kind of pops back up. So anyway, next up. Marvel is giving away free digital comics in every episode of She-Hulk. I guess we probably mentioned that in the first, second episode or something like that. There's QR codes in the episodes that you can go and scan that'll net you a free comic book related to the to She-Hulk or whatever show. I mean, they've been doing this with a few of the Marvel shows, so this is not new territory. But I believe has been one in pretty much almost every episode of She-Hulk, which I don't think there was one in this last episode. So, but nevertheless, like I said, this article kind of goes into what has been given so far, I believe. Next up.
All right, next up, Marvel has announced its New York Comic Con 2022 panel schedule. So they have a schedule here. I'm not going to go deep into it, but there is a panel scheduled for each day. Friday has 2 panels, Thursday has 1, Friday has 2, Saturday has 2, and Sunday has 1. So if you are attending New York Comic Con, like myself, see if any of these panels fit into your schedule.
I'm guessing, yeah. Ooh, I have a feeling you would have probably wanted to go to that first one, but then probably won't be able to make that one.
I don't have a ticket for Thursday.
Oh, well, okay. Then you definitely won't be making it to that one anymore.
Exactly. Like this, this past Comic Con, like just very quickly, obviously last year's Comic Con was the first one post pandemic, or at least during the pandemic, since we are still technically in one. even though we're really in the endemic stages. Last year was obviously difficult. There was a scale back on many things. This year is, masks will be required, but we're going to see a lot more of the regular Comic-Con activity. And so I still think a lot of people, based on the ticket sales, are still a little bit cautious about what they want to invest in tickets. So, it's obviously smart for big presenters like Marvel and whatnot to spread their panels out. So, to try to get, people to come in on those days.
Is Matt going?
What's that?
Is Matt going?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
We always go. We don't always show up at the same time because our schedules are different. But we always, we're always in the same ticket buying pool.
Gotcha.
It's an old tradition now.
Indeed. X-Men 92 gives Jubilee her most powerful upgrade ever. So this was in spoilers for the last issue of X-Men 92 House of X-E 2. So let's see. Yeah. So X-Men 92 House of X-E 2 number 5 comes from writer Steve Fox and artist Salva Espin, colorist Israel Silva, and letterer VC Joe Sabina. So apparently the short end of is that Jubilee gets the Phoenix Force. Apparently. So there you go. I haven't had a chance to read that. Actually, I think I read the first issue, and I think I said I was going to come back. Oh, I read the first 2 issues, and I think I said I was going to come back to it, and I never did. So now that they're all out, I'll probably check it out now. So if you did not know, it's pretty much the X-Men from the X-Men animated series, but with but in Krakoa, with the Krakoa leanings. So there you go. Next up.
So apparently there were some rumors that X-Men Red was about to be canceled.
Apparently.
I had no idea this was even a rumor.
Yeah, me either.
I was about to say Roddykat is much more online in terms of social media than I, and I had no idea this was an issue, but apparently Al Ewing has debunked it himself, because the story that he is cooking is not going to come to a boil. Like, he's literally using cooking metaphors here. The story that he is cooking will not come to a boil in number 10, but there's still number 11 to go, and right now we're only up to number 6, so we've still got a ways to go.
Yeah. So I don't know who these people are trying to kill off the book, but I mean, X-Men Red's pretty much been one of the better books. So go figure. Scarlet Witch artist Shara Pacelli shares a sneak peek at new Marvel series. So we talked about the fact that the Scarlet Witch is getting a new series in January. So this is Sarah Pacelli, who's going to be the artist of it, showing off some art, I guess, from the book. So really not much to say about that. If you're a fan of art, you might want to check this article out, because Sarah Pacelli does some pretty good art. Also colors by Matt Wilson. So there you go. And if you're watching the video version, you can see at least one picture off of her Instagram account. Next up, so we have some MCUification of the Agatha Harkness character in the pages of Marvel Comics. Marvel's Midnight Suns second issue, in a preview of it, or at least new art for Midnight Suns number 2, has revealed a redesigned Agatha Harkness who has a drastically younger look than she previously displayed in the Marvel Universe. And so, part of this is delving into the character's secret past, but as I said, it is also to MCUify the character, as we want to say here on the show, because most people who are MCU fans will have been introduced to the character through Catherine Hahn's portrayal in WandaVision. Mm-hmm. So I kind of want to say this is not necessarily the first time that they've kind of youngified Agatha Harkness. To this extent, definitely, though, because in that last Scarlet Witch miniseries that she had, or series that she had, there was a kind of younger-ish acting, definitely and slightly looking at Agatha Harkness in that book. And because I remember reading it, we were talking about it on the show, and I was like, when did this happen? Because as folks of a certain vintage know, Agatha Harkness was just like this old lady with a shawl and her cat Ebony, and they have since gone away from that, like well before the MCU-fication of the character. But now they got a true MCU-fication of the character in this in this iteration. So, and if you're watching the video version, you can see the picture in question. So there you go. Next up, Marvel reveals first look at Spider-Man horror series, which is called Deadly Neighborhood Spider-Man. It's, oh no. So it says here, this Halloween season, your friendly neighborhood Spider-Man becomes the Deadly Neighborhood Spider-Man. It's written by Taboo of the Black Eyed Peas and B. Earl, who were both writing that last Werewolf by Night series. But apparently B. Earl's had done Spirits of Vengeance, Spirit Rider, and art by Juan Ferreira. It says here that Deadly Neighborhood Spider-Man sees Peter Parker faces demons, literally. Which probably should be actually, but we're not going to split hairs on that one. Before the Spider-Verse ends, Dan Slott and Bagley's Spider-Man #1 this October, this revolutionary dark take, quote-unquote, on the Warp Crawler will see Spider-Man's dream trip to Los Angeles turn into a walking nightmare when Deadly Neighborhood Spider-Man swings onto stands October 19th. And there's some preview pages if you are so inclined to check them out. Next.
So, in news to me, Miles Morales is going to be returning to his classic Spider-Man costume in a new series. So while I don't mind that they're going back to the original costume, I thought that streetwear vibe costume was kind of lame.
Yeah.
But I understood why. You know, they wanted to change things up a little bit. But what I'm disappointed by is that Saladin Ahmed is departing the character. And Cody Ziegler, who I kind of have some mixed feelings about in terms of his writing, is coming on to relaunch Miles in a new series that is going to debut. Looking for the information. I see the solicitation, but it doesn't say when.
Yeah. Speaking of, solicitations for December have come out for the comic books and we have DC's, Marvel's, and I believe Images in the show notes.
Right. Why doesn't it say when?
I'm not
in this article.
I don't know. Also, Cody Ziegler, co-writer of She-Hulk, Marvel's She-Hulk.
On the TV show.
Yeah.
Right. The run on whatchamacallit, on Spidey, on Amazing Spidey, kind of wanting.
There's been some interesting choices made in his writing. So it says in December.
But say in any event, I've scoured this article and it does not have a release date. We just have solicitation information.
Yeah, it just says December.
It's going to be December. Oh, it does say December?
Yeah, but it doesn't say a specific date in December.
Oh, okay. So it is December. Well, as long as it says December, they actually haven't gotten around to giving firm dates. I was just skimming the article to look to see any kind of date indication. So if it says December, that's fine. Right.
DC deepens the mystery as to how Alfred has returned. This is from last week's Batman versus Robin #1 by Mark Waid and Mahmoud Asrar. I'm not going to really go into this because I said I was going to possibly check this out. But nevertheless, apparently Alfred's back. So go figure. Next up.
Spoiler alert, DC finally confirms Ghostmaker's key role in Batman's past. So this must have been in... what issue is this in?
This is Batman the Night. I think is that the issue that came out this week?
Batman the Night #9. Yeah, so yeah, I haven't been reading this, so basically this reveals that Ghostmaker's origin. The Ghostmaker's origin is revealed in Batman: The Night #9.
Which came out this week, yeah. So,
Okay.
yeah. The Witcher: The Ballad of Two Wolves has been announced from Dark Horse Comics and CD Projekt Red. It's a new comic series set to kick off later this year, which there's not much year left. It's written by Bartosz. I'm going to butcher this name, so I apologize. Bartosz Zizbor, who's written some other Witcher stuff, with art and colors by Mickey Montillo. Additionally, letters Hassan Otsmane Az Elwal is on the new series as well. It's set to release on December 21st, with 3 more issues to follow. So, you Witcher fans, have at it. Next up.
Star Trek: Strange New Worlds, the Illyrian Enigma announced. So this is a new comic book series that has been announced by IDW Publishing, and it's set between the show's first and second seasons of the original series. And no, not the original series of the Strange New World series. I'm sorry.
Right.
Yeah, I was about to say, I am in very foreign territory talking about this part of Star Trek, folks.
Yes, the very newer old the newer / old part of Star Trek.
Exactly. This book is going to be in shops December 21st, 2022.
Yep. Last but not least, Gargoyle's comic creative team has been revealed. Dynamite Entertainment revealed that the first creative team for the adaptation of the Disney's beloved animated series Gargoyles. Let's see. Creator and preeminent driver of the characters, Greg Weisman, returns to chronicle the latest adventures of everybody's favorite nocturnal New York City protectors, with art by George Cambadius, with a battery of variant covers, because of course they're going to do that. This is going to debut December 7th. So yeah, you fans, you 90s kids with your gargoyles and all that kind of stuff, there you go. Have at it,
I was
folks.
a 90s kid. I appreciated Gargoyles, and we've talked about it at length over the course of this show. Obviously its ties with its voice cast ties with Star Trek: The Next Generation.
Oh yeah, some key folks. So like I said, I know I'm going to try to take a stab at the show before this book comes out, but whether it happens or not, who knows. But
it gets a little wonky after you leave the first season.
So I hear. So. Oh, actually, that reminds me of
I lost touch with the show. That's when I lost touch with the show, was after the first season. But that first season remains a really strong bit of storytelling and animation.
Right. Actually, that kind of reminds me of something going back to what you were saying about filler arcs in comic books. Anime and manga lovers know that feeling quite well, as there are filler arcs in anime and manga at times. More often manga. I mean, more often anime, because the manga's on a break or something or whatever, or ended. But nevertheless, that's the thing. All right, folks, that is the end of the show. Oh dear. Okay. Before we end the show, though, and before the last ad that Age70 has undoubtedly queued up, I'm gonna show this real quick because I got something about this beforehand. I got a new figure. Why is it slightly bent in the back? I do not know. So there you go, folks. Boom. The Blue Marvel has joined the ranks of my Marvel Legends collection. I don't know if you can see that all up well.
Congratulations!
Yeah.
Yay!
So there you go. The builder figure is the controller, which I will not be doing, and plus this line apparently has a U.S. agent, which I definitely ain't gonna be doing. Let me stop. I probably wouldn't pick up a U.S. agent. And actually that current Thor figure. So go figure. But yeah, Blue Marvel, folks. I will pair him with the Monica Rambeau figure, because since they are an item now. But that, folks, is that. You got one more ad read for me, sir?
Yeah, one last ad read, and we've been at this for a while. This show has gone on. We had a lot to talk about. This is the ad we read when we are running late. Keep our podcast free by shopping at Amazon. Visit cspn.us and click the Keep Our Podcast Free at the top of the page. Click Keep Our Podcast Free link at the top of the page. I apologize, folks. That's how fast I wanted to go through this. From there, scroll down and click on the Amazon link to shop. Purchase items from Amazon as you normally would, whether it's books, music, electronics, jewelry, apparel, or Marvel Legends. For every purchase made on Amazon through our link, Amazon sends the CSPN a payment that helps us keep the Comic Book Chronicles podcast free for our listeners at no extra cost to you. Amazon.com through CSPN.us. Do it today.
All right, folks, that's it. End of the show. Go home. I don't know where you got to go, but you got to get the heck out of here. We'll be back next week with more She-Hulk, more Andor, more House of Dragon with some rings attached to them.
Yeah.
All that good stuff. I don't think there's anything else. That's pretty much a lot, but it's like a lot.
Listen, we may even talk about Jujutsu Kaisen Zero.
We may even talk about Jujutsu Kaisen Zero.
It depends on how much I remember of the original Jujutsu Kaisen. And I may have to read a wiki. It's not spoiling anything. It's just refreshing my memory.
Right, and that's what I was thinking about when I saw that article first. I was like, dang, I'm not even sure how much I even. But then again, it's a prequel, so it kind of less matters. Right, it's a prequel to
but it still helps.
Yeah, you're right. But I mean, like I said, I don't think it's going to have to do with Yoshidori. It might have to do with Gojo, if anything. So
I don't remember the characters' names.
Okay, so yeah, there you go.
What are you going to do?
Nevertheless, folks, we will, like I said, we'll talk about what we talk about when we get to that point next.
And the fall premiere of several anime series are coming up soon in early October.
Oh, that's right. Because Spy Time Family is actually this week or next week. Actually, it's coming up soon.
Oh, is it?
Yeah. It was 10 days from when I think it's it might be next week.
I was about to say, I think the week after is My Hero Academia, October 6th. So.
Yeah, I've been seeing people catching up with My Hero. I was like, yeah, I'm gonna take a stab at that, but goddamn it, that's 5 seasons.
But it goes quickly.
Yeah, I know. So we'll see how that works out. Nevertheless, folks, not to believe it is too much longer. I have been Roddykat. You can find me at Roddykat on Twitter. You can find me at NewsNerdNeat on Twitter. You can find me at CBCaps on Instagram. Agent_70 on Twitter and Instagram. PC_dirt on Twitter, Pop Culture Net on Twitter, PopCultureNetwork.com is on the brother sites therein. Tim DOGD98 on Twitter. Also CB Chron on Twitter, which is the Comic Book Chronicles Twitter account. Also the Kliq Nation on Twitter. That's TheKliqNation. TheKliqNation.com. And also, of course, he's over at comicbook.com, where he's over there writing his face off. Which probably should be fingers off, but y'all get it. I'm not changing it now. You can find this here podcast on the Coastal Podcast Network. That's ESPN.us.
Do it today.
You can also find us on your podcast place of choice, whether it be Google Play, Apple iTunes, aka Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or the Coastal Podcast Network's SoundCloud page.
Make sure to hit like and subscribe and leave us all the good 5-star reviews.
You can also find this recording every Thursday night, 9:30-ish p.m., unless there's some issue or something. Sometimes maybe we just tired, folks. We don't know. But 9:30-ish p.m. Eastern Standard Time on the YouTube on youtube.com/TheKliqNation and the Comic Book Chronicles Twitch page, which is twitch.tv/Comic Book Chronicles.
Make sure to hit like and subscribe and hit the notification bell to get notified when we go on the air.
Yes, and if we get like 25-ish more people on the Comic Book Chronicles Twitch page, we can upload some stuff that we've been talking about that y'all probably don't know anything about, unless y'all go into the archives of CSPN. But nevertheless, we can upload them to Twitch. So I'm just saying, help us out if you can. Think that's it, actually. So let us be out. This has been the Comic Book Chronicles. Peace.
Peace. One. Wakanda forever!